there, guys. Welcome back to the Dead Air podcast. It's me, Blank, and your secondary host over there. Secondary, not the primary. It's Mr. Jacky, because I'm doing the intro today, boys.
Wow, I feel like I've just been... It's like that movie. I can't remember what the clip's from, but you know, with the guy's on the boat, and he's like, look at me, I am the captain now.
Oh, with
you
Mr.
come
Tom
in,
Hanks.
you've done an intro.
Yeah,
you've overtaken. I always just say we're here as a collective. You've separated, you've segregated us as one and two.
I'm so sorry.
This is rude. I can't believe
I know,
this.
it's kind of mean, actually. I apologise.
It was a bit aggro.
We just duoed
it's
as
fine.
well. Yeah, so we were hand in hand, you know, winning lanes versus Lamorite.
Shout out to Lamorite. We did just see him.
Yeah, to be
Lasherite,
fair,
actually.
he did kind of own us a little bit in the lane. We did our best.
He was giving it.
Yeah, pretty sick moves.
We had some canonical law accurate fights as I was on.
Oh,
on
you
the
was
old
on
Bebop.
Bebop? Yeah.
Yeah. Blue Bop, of course, the upcoming skin. You can get more info on that at Deadlock Intel.
Yeah, Deadlock Intel for all your official Deadlock news.
Oh yeah, 100% real, 100% real, factual. Yeah, by the brightest minds in the community, the number one ranked Slork himself.
But yeah, so now we've done our little promos at the start of the video into the podcast, because we've had some crazy goings on at the moment throughout the entirety of the community. Obviously, the game came out to be public. Talk about it.
Mate, the fact that was the end of the last like 2 minutes of recording or whatever it was, maybe like 30 seconds even of that last podcast we did, where I just go, oh, have they done a patch?
It's like, oh no, not again.
The game's public.
We've got it in the podcast. We've got a lot to do.
My God.
Yeah, and there's just me there, like, being harassed by room service with my horrible mic as well. Probably the worst time for me to be abroad at that point. I think I'll start taking my mic with me places.
You got to do it. It's got to be done.
Slip that into the suitcase. We'll have to do that. I'm upsetting people's ears in the process. But yeah, the game has gone public. 2 weeks now gone by. Or is it a week? I think it's a week.
No, it's been 7 days. It's not even been 7 days yet, dude. The game dropped on the night of the 24th, like early hours of the 24th. Yeah. So it's been what, 6 days?
It's not been a long time. Not been a long time
since 6 days.
Since it came out, which is sort of nuts. There's been a lot of buzz around Deadlock. You know, we've managed to get all our stuff out public as soon as possible. So big shout out to Jacky for that one, being the master of the comms over on the socials.
The entire team, so like the Dead Air squad. Damp was at Gamescom, so she was running around doing interviews with people. You've seen those on the shorts and on Deadlock News if you tuned in for that. Blank was obviously away. You were doing like analysis work, effectively.
I was, yeah.
So you were busy on a sofa with world champion Evo Street Fighter man or whoever it was.
Cool guy.
Yeah, there you go. You were busy. And I was at home, but I was casting the Blast Showdown, but it was from at home. So I would just finish casting the showdown, say goodbye to the producers, and then immediately put on my Deadlock hat that was next to my Counter-Strike hat and just make stuff all night. Didn't get much sleep for a while. I had 8 hours sleep last night for the first time in 2 weeks. That was big. You
say last night, though, but you did stay up the majority of the night beforehand making the patch notes. So
it was about 24 hours nearly from starting taking screenshots of the whole map just in case things changed to when the patch dropped to editing it to posting it. I'll post a picture of the editing timeline of patch notes.
That's cool, yeah. I like that.
It looked ridiculous by the end. Yeah,
it's like the etchings of a madman into a scrolled parchment.
Honestly, yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it has gone nuts. Again, we do this at the start every single time a podcast. We thank everybody for joining in. I think it wasn't you
at
know
home.
who you are. But yeah, all the Dead Air fans out there, thank you so much. It was
on the subject of that. Hang on, I thought of a name. I was making a subreddit, but two adjacent things in one.
Yes, of course.
There's a subreddit now for the Dead Air group. You know, r/Dead Air.
Yeah.
But when it was saying like, oh, what's the name of your audience or like the people in the community? I thought of this. What do you reckon about this? Deadheads.
Deadheads, yes. I just remembered it as well. So all you deadheads out there, thank you so much. It felt like yesterday that we were having a little celebratory dance over 100 subscribers on YouTube. But it has sort of exploded. So massively thank you. We cannot thank you enough. Deadheads out there.
Deadheads.
You know who you are. So it's been awesome. It's been really, really fun. And we are going to just keep on trucking, putting out some more educational content from my side of things. Jacky's going to be doing all of his stuff with Patch Notice and more educational content, Deadlock news coming through from Damp. It's been very fun. And we have more in the works. We got more in the works on a pretty short timeline, actually. So
100%.
It's ramping up. It's ramping up.
We're all cooking. We have like one of those industrial style kitchens, and we're all sous chefs. You know, we're going at it. We've been busy with other stuff as well. That's the crazy thing, is I think like the amount of stuff we've got out. Because like we said, we always want it to be really high quality and like kind of give you the facts with a little bit of our own personality sprinkled in. So that's how you know you're a good artist, Blank. If a little bit of yourself goes into it, you know?
Yeah.
That's what it takes.
I'll take one of my eyebrows and just rub it on the paper.
Mix it in. Yeah. When laning halfway through the video, there's just an eyebrow overlaid in the screen.
That's mine.
Are, I can't get it off.
It's mine.
It's just my eyebrow.
Yeah, sorry.
But yeah. But that's why, obviously, right now when we've been working, we've been doing some other stuff. Me and you were casting some CS as well, so we've been a bit busy.
Yeah.
But we're free. Actually, that's a fun one. Myself and Blank, as of 2 days ago, now hold the title of commentating the official longest ever game of Counter-Strike 2 that's been played. We beat the world record, Blank, of 64 rounds.
Did.
It was about 2.5 games of CS in one. Pretty ridiculous.
It was
and
crazy.
Then we went on to cast the entire longest series officially in a best of 3 as well. So that's a weird thing that happened.
We'd be in the Guinness World Book of Records if it wasn't for that thing not existing as much anymore.
The Guinness Esports Book of Records.
Yeah, that's right. We can get that going. We can mash that one up. But I think we
the McGinnis records.
That would be good. The McGinnis World Book of Records.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, we'll do that. We'll keep track of like what happened.
There you go. So if you do end up watching the podcast, which I hope you are right now, and you're waiting for the patch notice, the full patch breakdown that we usually do on these days, we'll drop timestamps so you can skip to it now. But if you want to hang around, if you have a record that you think you've broken in the game, drop it in the comments and we'll put it in the McGinnis World Book of Records. And we'll set it up. We'll set it up for you guys at home.
We can do a little jingle. We could have like a shot. I'm imagining like McGinnis on a podium.
Yeah.
It says like 1 underneath and it like shoots up over the top and we'll come in. It'll be like the McGinnis World Record.
Yeah. And then we'll slam like a wall up in the screen and that's where we'll paste all of the records. What do you think about that?
Her wall has them on.
Yeah.
And every time we add one, it gets a little bit busier.
It gets added to the wall. You like that?
That's fun.
Yeah, okay.
All right, there you go. New segment on the Dead Air podcast, the McGinnis World Record. Send them in. You've got the email. Email's down below. We've got a new email. It's easier to use now. It's not as long.
Yeah.
It's just contact@deadlockair.com. So any thoughts, feelings, screenshots, memes, send it in. You can use the subreddit now as well, actually. We'll get a little tag. We'll get a McGinnis World Record tag for the subreddit, and we'll check it. So yeah, r/deadair. Post it.
If you are a record holder, you can get yourself a little badge. Yeah.
Oh, that could be good, like gold medal.
Yeah, you like that?
Well, I suppose it's not the Olympics, is
not
it?
Really.
It's the Guinness Book of World Records. Very similar. Yeah, it's just r/deadair. I've checked. So yeah, post in there. Maybe we can. When Deadlock events come around, like esports events, Blank, maybe if anyone holds a world record, if they come over to us and say, I am McGinnis and I hold the world record in full.
Yeah.
You have to say that specifically. I am McGinnis and I hold the world record like that.
Yep.
We'll give them a golden
McGinnis.
One of those golden chocolates or a pint of Guinness.
McGinnis.
Depending on how old you are and what country we're in. If you can drink, you can have a pint of Guinness.
Yeah.
Or we'll give you a little gold chocolate medal or both.
Look, what we do is we get a 3D printer, we 3D print McGinnis, and we do a little gold lacquer on her.
Spray painted gold, like Warhammer.
Yeah. And then we hand those out.
And we give those out.
You've won a golden McGinnis.
Congratulations, sir. You've won a golden McGinnis.
You are now the proud owner of a golden McGinnis.
I've got the McGinnis World Records on the blower, and they've said you've bloody won. They said that was the biggest bebop hook they've ever seen.
Top show, laddie. You're now on the wall of McGinnis Records. It's perfect.
Here it is. Yeah. We'll carry it around. We can print it on a cardboard.
We can 3D print that as well.
We can take. We don't need. We just regular print it. Just use regular printing.
3D
Old
print
school
everything.
printing.
Yeah, even flat stuff.
Well, I suppose it will be in real life, which will be 3D.
Yeah.
But we take that to events, and then people can sign it. They can come. They can come see it and go, "That's me." That right there, that was my clip, and sign and date it.
Yeah.
And then there you go, forever. We'll put that up in the house. We'll rotate you as it every 2 weeks. We'll pass it between us both.
That would be very cool. Enjoyable.
There you go.
So there we go. On the fly, made something new. That's how it goes here at Dead Air. We like to innovate, but also improvise, and that is mostly how our content gets done. If not with a bit of splash and a bit of flair, we throw that in there as well.
Fly by the seat of our pants.
Yeah, but they're colourful pants, all right? They're nice. They're nice. They're branded.
I always find that funny because obviously that's a very different saying depending on what part of the world you're from. If you're American, that just might mean trousers, but if you're English, that could mean your underwear.
When I was a kid, I used to think it was like you were hanging onto your pants and they were like flying away. I didn't.
What, like off the washing line?
Yeah. Like when they're like,
come back, pants. What are you doing?
They're like floating through the air, and you're just hanging on to like the waistband, and it's just taking you places like crap magic carpet.
It's like, do you remember what's his name? Was it Thunderpants? That movie
bro,
about the kid that farted, and that was his superpower.
He farted mega hard. Yeah.
And they had to make these like robotic pants that harnessed the power of the fart, and then he'd be taken off, and he was like a little superhero.
Yeah, it was like Rocket Man, wasn't he? Like he wanted to be an astronaut, but
he was Elton John. He was doing the music on the piano. Rocket Man.
Armed and supplied by Brussels sprouts. That's how he did it. It was good.
I think he did.
I think he
actually did.
Yeah.
He like maximized his food to fart ratio.
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that movie greatly. Yeah, it was good. It's like the Goonies vibe.
Yeah.
Goonies now a bit with a different terminology. I remember.
What if you're a Goonies?
Yeah,
a little bit.
A little
bit. Change the term.
It was a good movie. It was a good movie, but now it's gone.
Do you know they last one of these before we'll actually dial it in a bit because we could do this for hours. Do you know that they changed in the Oxford Dictionary, like the explanation of what literally means was updated due to the sheer amount that literally gets misused on a day-to-day basis.
Literally,
they had to change it. Yeah, because obviously now like people don't use literally as something actually being literal in the sense that it is 100% fact and happened. They use it more for oh my God, I literally did that when you didn't. You didn't.
Literally
just do that.
So cool, Jacky. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You can look that up.
That's good.
That exists.
Not going to change much though. I think like Oxford Dictionary thinks it's got more power than it actually does.
Well, it's just for them, really, isn't it? It's
like
hang on. Was it wise to piss off Big Dictionary?
I don't know, man.
Do they have much power?
They're kind of like the Necronomicon of dictionaries. So maybe we're playing with.
Do they own words? Like technically, do they own the words? What if they just say we're not allowed to talk anymore?
Bro, that would suck. We'd have to learn.
You know what I mean? We have to use words outside the dictionary.
What are you saying? We'd like have to create a whole new language?
Yeah.
Glorpus smorpus.
So like,
that means
rather than welcome. But right, that's what I mean. Like, rather than welcome to Dead Air, it'd have to be like
I don't know. You
blap tap, smappy wappy, slaucus.
Yeah, there you go. That's perfect. What part of that was Dead Air?
Slaucus.
Very good.
Yeah,
very good. Very good.
Slauc us.
Yeah.
Air being us. Of
Slauc
course.
being dead. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, not in yet.
Not quite in the game yet. Excited for him to come through, actually. He looks pretty fun. I think the character design needs a little bit of work, but, he's coming along. In fact, that is a point. There is a lot of... I'm going to say this to you guys right now. All right, and heed my words very carefully. There is a lot of stuff going on at the moment where people are sharing designs of characters and heroes yet to come out yet. I would just say be careful, because a lot of those are leftovers from Neon Prime and likely will have a lot of reworks and redesigns coming through. Because I did see a lot of people being like sort of upset with some of the direction they're taken with some of the upcoming heroes. But that is not final and most likely be changed. If you're looking at any of them, Calico is a great one to look at right now, because she's been actively worked on. And she looks very much like she fits in with the Deadlock universe in the Cursed Apple itself. So that's a good one to have a look at in terms of like, this is what's probably coming. Same with Holiday or Vacation, depending on where you live. But yeah, so I stole that one from Rain, that joke. Sorry. But yeah. But yeah, so it's definitely something to consider. Is a lot of that is unfinished, and that's grabbed straight from the in-game files. But super cool though. Super cool that stuff's already in there. And they already have a lot of like working parts ready to go. They can just start manipulating, which is the cool thing, because there was also, I'm sorry, I'm rambling here a little bit, Jacky, but
no, you're okay.
But there was a thing that came out from Yoshi a while back. I don't think I have the screen cap for it. I think I can find it though, where he was saying that if you've encountered the 7 bug, where you turn into a lovely neon flashing skeleton in game, this is a bug that Yoshi said has been causing problems for years. So the game has been in work for a very, very long time. So I imagine they have like a lot of assets that they still can use, still can iterate on from Neon Prime. So it's the case that the game's going to rapidly develop, probably because they've had a lot of practice creating this stuff, going through the motions, and a lot of things on top right now are polish, because there was some incredible changes in the patches in terms of polish and just overall design that you went over, Jacky.
Yeah. No, 100%. 100%. I thought the other thing I was going to mention there that you reminded me of, I thought you were going to say when Yoshi legitimately just said, by the way, there isn't a single hero in the game right now whose artwork is final.
Yeah.
So not one of them. We do have the screenshot of that somewhere. Maybe I'll put it on screen. Maybe I won't.
Hey, you can whack that on.
You know, it exists. You know, that could be here, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that one was more interesting, I think, in the sense where it goes to show, like, for people that are getting in now, and like you say, that maybe you're getting a little bit misled in terms of this is an upcoming hero, because it's not. It's like you might get something adjacent to those heroes one day. Yeah, it's just a leftover of obviously a completely different game at this point. And you can see the ones that get tweaked. I mean, Shiv, you know, his model has changed in some ways compared to what it was going to be. Like, he used to have rocket boots. They've been taken off.
Yep.
I was talking to you about the fact that like one of his arms basically was blades previously, and it would reload his gun like that. You can find the animations for that somewhere. There's stuff that's left over in the VPKs. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that just changes a lot. Like you say, though, Holiday, she's been getting active updates to her abilities and being tweaked somewhat. And probably will be one of the next ones I'd imagine to see. There was also a bug. I think it was a bug. I wouldn't read too much into it. But day one of the patch, before they had the hotfix, when you went to the hero stat screen, it showed Holiday, Wrecker, and Mirage. I think it displayed those 3 heroes as potential heroes you could have had stats for. But again, that's probably just a line of code that wasn't correct
that
or
went
something.
A little
you know
bit
what I mean?
Glorpus Morpus, yeah.
That's what I mean. I don't think that Slaucus Raucus was indicating they're going to be the next heroes. Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool. It's really, really cool. And again, talking about artwork side, we posted a while back the original design at least of Dynamo, or Lil Dynamo as he was called back then. He was the pizza delivery boy. People were so excited about that, and they were wanting the guy to be in the game in terms of the concept art. And again, the concept team over at Valve is they're cooking up something crazy over there, you know, 5-star class meal. But again, I think we talked about this on maybe a couple of podcasts back, but there is files within the game code of little comic books where they indicate at the end of reading the comic book, you get yourself a free cosmetic, a free skin. So skins are coming. So you know what? With all the love that Lil Dynamo's gotten, I'm not going to go on record and say this. That is literally going to happen. But you know, you might see that skin in game eventually. Who knows?
Yeah. That, or they might just use it for something else, because obviously like the way Dynamo has been written and the way that he operates, right, it doesn't really fit the theme of that skin.
Yeah.
But you can see why it would have been a cool early build. And obviously, again, like Yoshi said, this was early concept art with an idea. And there is some voice lines that react to him that make me think that the plan at some point was to go with that. And then obviously you did change direction in terms of making him what he is now, where he's like the robotic scientist type who, you know, is now a little bit more fleshed out in terms of his design.
Yeah.
For that as well, by the way, any caveat is it was a visual novel originally, a while back. I think this was like the May build of the game. You could still kind of access it, and a little bit before that as well. But the visual novel outline of you being able to have like a Lady Geist visual novel, like click through, make decisions. At the end of that, there was basically, I think the exact wording was, I still have the pictures somewhere, but it was basically here, if we wanted to, we could reward a player with perhaps a Lady Geist, like old Lady Geist skin.
Yeah.
And that could be a thing. So it's more, I think Valve, obviously, they've not nailed cosmetics for years. You know, they owned it back when TF2 came out of understanding how to do it, refined the system with Counter-Strike, Dota as well. You've got your Arcanas, the Couriers, the in-game voice lines. And I think, again, Deadlock is one of those games that it would make sense long-term. That's what you'd be doing. And I've seen a lot of people, we were going to discuss this because I've seen a lot of people that have been saying, I really want cosmetics now. Is it bad that I'm already hoping cosmetics to be added now? I would like to have cosmetics for abilities, for heroes. I think that's fine. And obviously, like if you're Valve, that's great, right? Because long term, you want to add skins and personality to these characters and things that fit in and give you players more freedom. Because it's a MOBA. It's like Dota, right? Or it's like Counter-Strike. Expression isn't only in how you play, it's also how you look, how the game sounds. Because it might make it more fun for you as an individual.
Yeah.
Obviously, big caveat being though, this is the pre-development test. This is still not even technically really an alpha or a beta or anything. It might be public now and you can talk about it, but remember, it's so early and we're only just getting some of the art that makes the game look and feel like the concepts Valve have made years ago. You know what I mean? Like, well, not really years ago with how quickly we went from Neon Prime to Deadlock, but that sort of time period of you had an idea of we want to move away from Neon Prime, make Deadlock, but getting there, we're now just starting to get to that stage. You know, we're still a whiles away. So I think that stuff obviously will come in the future, I would imagine. But hold off for now and just enjoy the process. Enjoy watching it change as it goes.
Trust the process here, because right now, to be honest with you, with the way the patch notes are looking, and you know what, we could probably jump into the patch notes in a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Just because there has been some big changes. And I think that some of the biggest changes have been happening around the map, which is what they're trying to sort out, because they have their heroes sorted now. A lot of the heroes work well together. They interact well together. We iterate now on movement a little bit, sprucing up the map overall, making it look a lot nicer, which it does. It looked slightly bland, I'd say, about 4 weeks ago, but that's fair enough. It was just a working product, right? You know, it had everything it needed to, which was a case of the general map design of how you rotated around it was cool. All the lanes worked. I liked the bridges. I liked all the general mechanics of how you would play in a lane as well. But now they're making everything look prettier, look nicer, look more enjoyable to be part of. And there's a lot more lore that's been thrown in. And there's still a ton of lore to go, guys. There is still a ton of lore to go. If you're one of those clever folks that can access some of those VPK files, you can pull up some of the voice lines. There is a huge amount of voice lines, a huge amount of content that has been untapped thus far for the game, which is only going to make it expansive.
That stuff we're working on as well. Like now we've got more free time where we're not busy with work. I expect a lot of different stuff from Deadlock, because obviously this is the sort of stuff that I find particularly interesting, because I've been such a big Valve fan my entire like childhood into adult life, basically, of playing Valve games and growing up with the way they do. I don't know, it's just like the way they write stuff and the way they create universes, and even as it's gone through different members of staff, it feels like they've always had this kind of core identity of the way a Valve game is written. It feels like, you know, you're playing a big experience where you want to know more about each character. You want to know why you're in the world you're in and find all those weird bits. So we're going to be covering a lot of that stuff. I'm going to be making some lore videos and a lot of different things that will be coming up. But like you said, I think the biggest change in terms of the map stuff, we can even do that at the top of the docket and then work into the other stuff, because there was a lot of big changes there. It's the fact that, like you say, a few weeks ago, it was almost every lane looked the same visually in terms of it had different ways it was designed, with the mirrored sort of, you know, sapphire orange being different to sort of amber purple in how they line up. But there wasn't much of an instant visual distinction. Now buildings have color coding on them in terms of the lanes, right? Like the trims on buildings. That was first done, I think, to like purple and yellow. I noticed that and I was like, yo, dude, they're changing the trimmings. I don't even think they mentioned that in a patch note. That was just one of the small hot fixes that got, because Valve do change things from time to time. You kind of have to be eagle-eyed about it. Then we had this big patch tonight where I said it in patch notes. I think this is the biggest visual change we've had to the map outside of gameplay changes. Biggest visual change, hands down by far. Like, it took me 2 pages of screenshots on the forum. I hit the image limit for the first time with how many before and after pictures I had taken.
Yeah, there was so much that changed. Well, I think the purple trim and just overall look of Purple Lane over our last patch. I think that was more of a case of, right, we've got everything done. Shiv's out, seems to be playable. Did receive some big nerfs after the fact, but that was something I think happened a little bit after the fact, where it's a case of, let's start sprucing things up. We can probably throw this one out before we get the patch out, because these guys, the guys over at Valve, are working very hard on this type of stuff. And I think this time around is a case of, that looks really good. I really like what we do with Purple Lane. Let's do it a little bit more. And I don't know how they did a little bit more, because either the team is expanding or growing, or someone's not getting a lot of sleep, because this was a massive patch.
Yeah. I actually don't think many of them are probably going to be sleeping too much. I mean, like, that's the meme with Yoshi, right? Like, get some sleep, Yoshi.
Good night, Yoshi.
Good night, Yoshi. There you go. Because it feels like they're just grinding. But again, man, I think this is one of those where for Valve, it's probably a game right now where the development of it, I was talking about this to Damp, where I was saying it feels interesting because it's almost like Deadlock has gone back to old school game development in the sense that things do not have to make sense at all. It doesn't have to have you have to do it this way because that's realistic and players will understand that. It feels like Valve are basically going, what's a fun mechanic? Okay, put it in. What's a fun idea? Okay, put it in. It's like old school game development where you have unlimited ammo while sliding. Well, that doesn't make sense, but it's fun, so fuck it. Put it in. And I love that stuff. And I think that's why it's probably got so much love from the dev team, because it's better to let them just experiment and do whatever they want. So you probably come into the office being like super jazzed, where you're like, yeah, I've chosen to work on Deadlock, and making this game is fun. It's tremendous how much freedom you have of every update. You're probably just like, well, I'm on the art team. I think it'll look better like this, and you just go nuts. You know?
I think it's important as well, because a lot of these mechanics are hitting their mark as well. Like they have not real world impact, but in-game impact. For instance, the sliding is really, really fun. In particular, for certain characters that don't have a massive magazine, like Hayes early on, sliding is actually really important. She can get her fixation stacks up really quickly if you're good enough to hit that slide and the track on the enemy hero. Also, there is convenient little stairs in most places where you're taking shots over towards Guardians or Walkers, where you can hit the slides often and get more and more shots out onto the Guardians or the Walkers, because you have that unlimited ammo. Particularly for players who on Ivy, that is a massive thing to be able to take down objectives early on, because she has such fast fire rate. So I think you can get around about, I think it's 7 to 10 bullets out per slide without having to reload very much. So it's really, really good. So all these things have little advantages here and there, even for wall jumping, particular characters that are big on movement. So for Lash, he has even more advantage to be taken care of there, where you can use your grapple to jump high and then hit a wall jump after that, reset your dash in the air, jump again, hit another grapple. There's so many fun things to be explored with these new things that have just been thrown into the game. And again, keyword fun, which it is right now. It's so much fun.
Oh yeah, dude, it's super, super fun. Visually, the game just keeps getting better and better in terms of you're branding things more. The world's being fleshed out more. The way that you've changed Orchard Lane to just have all these billboards, all these cool designs, it's so pretty. And I remember, funnily enough, some of these designs, these posters, a couple of days ago, we were going through the VPK, and I was like, oh, that's weird. I've not seen this one before. And I was showing them to you. And then it popped up on a billboard the next morning. I was like, oh, okay, there we go. That's where it's come from. But I think most importantly, like you say, it's fun, and you can see the way forgotten mechanics and forgotten ideas, things that used to be super popular in like arena FPS, weirdly, dude. And obviously having like a bit of an arena FPS background, seeing some of that stuff be brought back, having bounce pads, having different movement mechanics, and now having wall jumping, that Valve just outright dropped that one in, just went boom, wall jumping. You can now like ricochet off walls, and it doesn't burn any stamina, so it's actually just like a skill expression like technique. Oh, mate, it's crazy the amount of people that went nuts over that. Like, obviously, we showed it off at the minute it was dropped. I ran around trying out some different cool jumps you can do, just like lightly touching the top of the water, like how far that goes. And people went crazy about it. You had so many people from different games, different scenes, all throughout gaming that were like, this is insane. So glad Valve added this. I want to play this now.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit on top of everything else that already exists in Deadlock, right? That's just... I don't know, bro. They're kind of owning it.
Yeah.
Every time we do one of these, and every week, it feels like there's more of a reason. I just want to talk about Deadlock and play Deadlock and sit here and going, I love this game. This is sick, dude. Look at what they've added this week, you know? It's really, really cool. Also, there's a fun tidbit with that. With all the map changes, right, with Orchards, where they put all the billboards over that massive building, there's now a community of people that are going around saying they live in that building. And they're asking for it to be taken down because it's blocked all the windows.
I saw that. It really made me laugh, actually. That's some peak RP right there. I like that a lot.
It's really good. It's really good.
The first thing I was going to say, yeah, so with wall jumping as well, for instance, I think you talked about where can you use wall jumping and how it ties into the map. And they got very fortunate because there was a lot of places already pre-baked in the map that actually work very well with it. So for instance, up on Orange Lane, on the left or right-hand side, depending where you're starting on Sapphire or Amber, there's the fire escape stairs. They don't start at the bottom, but you can jump off the back wall onto the fire escape stairs and get towards the top of the building. And I think that's very cool, but it leads into the next point, which is that you have a MOBA. What are you doing differently from others? Obviously, we have a third person here, but it's not enough to just have it all on floor level, right? You got to take advantage of that 3D aspect, and they absolutely have. You can see them working a lot more with the underground, with Subway, now opening up the rooftop. So you have almost like 3 layers to this map now that you can all play across, which is super cool and highly used by a lot of the player base in terms of take advantage of it. For instance, you see a lot of lashes now opting not to use grapple early and just sit on top of these rooftops. They used to do it a lot over on Orange Lane, again, up towards the top of the fire escape, but now they have so much more opportunity for it. Even Sevens early on with the bounce pads can get pretty awesome ults off without having to buy Majestic Leap early. So it's just more stuff that you can take advantage of in the game for skill expression and big outplays. I do.
No, it's really cool.
Yeah, the only thing that I'm slightly worried about, well, not worried about, I think that a lot of people come into this game and they're like, it's very complicated, and now we're adding more things. But I personally prefer, this is my personal opinion, I prefer having a game that's got a big skill ceiling on it. Rather than something that you can pick up, play, and be like, I figured it out in a week and it's done. This is a game that's enjoyable to play, that you can just keep on playing.
Well, that's what I mean, dude. That's 100% the thing about Deadlock. Is also like, even Yoshi himself have said they would rather people come in and take it at their own pace and learn a new thing as they learn a new thing. So it's like eye-opening moments of, you know, the human way of learning stuff through experience, through trial and error, winning, losing, seeing someone else do something and go, oh, that's cool. And now the game's publicly available to be talked about. You know, like, we're showing off a lot of mechanics. We're showing off a lot of things that people didn't know about. Like with the double tap control, right? Obviously, we spoke about that in the last podcast. I was like, damn, people don't seem to know about that. We should make a video about it. Blows up. Everyone was blown away. Like, players that have been playing for a long time as well didn't even realize it, because obviously Deadlock doesn't force you to know all this stuff. It lets you try and then learn. I think the other thing with that is as well, it's fine to not know everything, and it's okay, because if you imagine when the game comes out fully, what if they even just had like a little account level, right? So say if you play 20 games, then you go into public play. But before that, you're just in the new player pool, you know? Yeah. You just play against other new accounts that have only played 1 to 20 games. So you have that experience of everyone's learning at the same place. You're not coming in and getting stomped instantly and being like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. This is a bit much. Yeah. I think that's the way to fix it. And then obviously people like us and all the other gamers that just sweat Deadlock and play it so much will be sat in ranked at some point, I would imagine anyway. So it'll all filter itself out of, do you want a more casual kind of game mode, play with friends? Do you want an environment to learn with the homies? And do you want, a more, you're actually feeling pretty competitive about this game?
The funny thing is that I was playing with a friend last night, and I think the conversation we had was my other mate who was saying, "Oh, you're back on Deadlock. Thought you uninstalled it last night." And he was like, "Yeah, but I've come back." It's just addicting. It's good fun.
Yeah.
Yes, you might struggle at first because, like you said, we don't have that new player pool at the moment. And if you do play against some tough players, then yeah, it can be a little bit disheartening.
Yeah.
But if it's good enough that someone uninstalls the game, is like, I want some more of it, actually reinstalls, that is a good sign in my book. And you got to love it for that, and I think that is just how it has gone. We've got a bit of a leg up on some of the newer folks just because we have had so much time to play the game, but it does get better. And it's also not one of the games where it's like 100 hours it gets better. It's more like 15 to 20, right? Once you got 15, 20 hours in, you've learned the game. You can still have some very fun games within that period, but it's just learning a couple of things here and there.
Now especially it's a lot easier because I know it's only been a week since the game came up, but obviously we had so much stuff that we knew that we've been able to pass on. I've seen people comment in our videos where they're like, "Oh, this is kind of funny. It's like Dota 2. When Dota 2 came out, there's like ancient history of like, people passing down, did you know you can do this?" And everyone goes, "Oh, I didn't know you could do that. I've played for 500 hours." Because everything's so individual based on like the heroes, the way things synergize, the way you can potentially do stuff. And obviously, we can share that. There's a lot of an easier way of first time you play the game, you can go in with a lot of this knowledge. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you're away on holiday and you can't play the game or something, or you're at college or like whatever, you know what I mean? What people are up to these days. You're at the gym. You can listen to this stuff. You can watch this stuff. It's not like it was before where like obviously we had tiny little hubs of all of us that had played hundreds of hours of the game over months and months, but we were just talking amongst ourselves. That's the other thing to factor in as well. You probably are playing against some people like us that have like racked up a few hundred hours or getting close to hitting 1,000 hours in some cases where there's different levels to it, and if you come in and get a bit unlucky, once your RMR hits your ELO hits a certain sort of rating, because it's there but it's all hidden. If you just somehow like win a load of games out of nowhere, maybe you get into like a new bracket, you're playing against people that have sweated a lot of the game, it might get a bit rough for you. So I can see why some new players experience that. I've seen that a lot as well, funnily enough, where people are going, "I love Deadlock, this game's so good," and then the next day I get messages where they go, "Yeah, I might just not play it. It's too much. Can't play as a solo." And it's just like it's funny. It's funny how people have that instant like, "I want to play this so much." And then they hit kind of a skill wall of people rise up because you're playing against better players. And it's like, damn, I need to improve. I think that's the biggest thing about the game, though, is one of those where it doesn't get unfun. The game is still incredibly fun. And you'll have more fun when you then figure out how to counter those things. And obviously that's in different ways, right? Like understanding the rotates, understanding the items, understanding how to outplay people, understanding heroes. There's so much depth. And like you say, I prefer this, where it reminds me a lot of Counter-Strike, where I play Counter-Strike, I don't know, man, since 2004. So it's been a long, 20 years, something like that, right?
You'll still be learning stuff. And
you still improve,
yeah. In CS, it's a case of what smokes can you throw? What kind of angles can you take? It's very base level, yet CS still has that amazing capacity for a case of there's still more to learn. And you take a game like Deadlock, which has items, heroes, different abilities, movement mechanics. There is so much that could be innovated on, and honestly, I'm excited to watch more players develop and grow, show me new stuff. I mean, I watch a lot of Mikhail S, currently the top player, I think, according to Tracklock. And he does some crazy things that I've never thought of doing before. And he wins games off the back of them. So, again, there's just stuff that you can learn from other players all the time. And that is, honestly, if I was to give anyone a bit of advice, probably one of the quickest ways to learn the game. If you jump in and you're a bit more of a kind of like a me person, where I like to watch games, like to figure things out. I'm putting out videos on the channel and I'll just go through all my thought process. But you can also just head to the Watch Now portion on Deadlock and just pick up one of the first games that pops up. So it is ordered currently in MMR basis. So those first 4 games you see are typically of some of the highest MMR rated players. So you're instantly watching some of the best players go against one another, and you can pick up some new little tidbits here and there just by watching them play.
Defo, it's a good way to learn, because obviously, like, some people are a bit more visual learners. That's why, like, a lot of the content we make, right, is to show that kind of stuff off. Where if you read the patch notes, but you don't quite understand what it means in terms of a tangible gameplay style, we can show it off in depth. If you want to learn how to lane more in depth, like you say with your stuff, it's having a way where people can physically sit there and digest. Oh, he's bought the item for this reason because it does this, rather than sometimes you read the description of an item, but obviously if you don't quite know how that interacts or what 12% means compared to maybe 5% of something else, you don't have that sort of info. So yeah, I think 100%. Watch games, play games. That's the other thing. Right now, especially, I think we said this on one of the other podcasts, but like, don't worry too much about winning or losing or what's going on. Just play the game. You'll improve. You know, it's an open testing period. The more you play, the easier it gets. Just focus on that loop of improving a little bit each game. Even if you set yourself a challenge of like, what is it you want to learn? Is it learning how Bebop works? Is it learning how to team fight together? Is it learning how to synergize off of, you know, you and your duo's comp? Think about that stuff a little bit more, and then you're always getting something positive out the games, because there's no sense being upset. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that, especially now, where I think where it's gone public, you get a lot of new people that are coming in, and it's getting a bit aggro in some games where people obviously are like super angry and trying to win. Remember, guys, like, being angry, it's like that old meme of the hockey player, like, why you have to be mad? It's only a game.
Yeah,
like, it's not going to do anything.
You're not losing any of it. You are losing MMR, but you can't see it. And it doesn't matter. Right now, just play the game, have fun, test it out. It's good stuff. And you can always come back to it later. At the end of the day, we'll still be making videos. You can watch those. You can catch up nice and easily. Let's jump with the patch notes, shall we?
Let's do it. Let's do it. That was a nice, I think, cover of everything that's changed this week. It's always good to get it all off our chest. We'll start at the top. We've covered some bits, so we'll dart around a little bit. There's some important things, some slightly less, and a couple of overall general changes. But we'll do as we always do. We know you're here for the long haul. You at home or in the car. I saw someone saying that they enjoy listening to our podcasts on the commute to and from work.
Oh, that's cute.
I think they're American, I would imagine, because most Americans, you have those long drives. So if that's what you're up to, feel free to put a mannequin in the passenger seat if you live in one of those states where you have to have 2 people for the carpool lane, and you can pretend it's me and Blank. Either one of us, or both, if you've got 2 mannequins.
That's true. I can be in the back seat. I'll just be talking into your ear from the back. It'll be a bit weird, but I'm there.
You can put the phone in the mannequin's lap, and it will be like it's both of us in the back seat.
There you go. Perfect. So general changes. I'm not Valve, but
We've added. Don't tell him.
Yoshi's added, alongside his team, new profile page displays a breakdown of recent matches and all-time player and hero statistics. Your shawls and your healings aren't going to be too high because they're all starting at 0 for all the players. But overall, really nice change. Looks so much cleaner. You used to have to do some funky stuff over in the...
through the panorama editor, through the dev
This
console.
Is the funny thing, is it wasn't actually that massive a change for me. And I didn't realize how big of a change it was because I've always been going through the console commands to pull up the stats of all my heroes just manually, because you used to be able to do it. But I'm realizing this actually is kind of a big change because it will give people a better idea of maybe what they're lacking on. Are they doing enough objective damage? Are you doing enough hero damage? What's your per soul game count? Like, are you hitting that magical 800 to 1,000 souls per minute quota? So yeah, this is all very interesting stuff, and I'm pleased that they did add it. Also, report button added to escape menu list to report some of those egregious players that are coming in, and I think that was a big thing. We did need to increase the capability of reports, and that's also at the end screen now as well, where you can just check the box underneath the player's name to report them. I think there was a lot of conversation in terms of how do I report a player in game in the Discord. So now it's much easier to do. Make it a safer place. Make it a safer place, guys.
I was trying to have a quick look to find it. I can't remember what the exact number was, but there was a post from Yoshi about that where I think he said new record, 58 reports in 12 games.
Oh, man.
Or something like that. So I think it's made it easier for people to see how, because it was a little bit hard in the sense that I think if you're newer and you haven't noticed it's there, obviously it was just a tiny exclamation mark or tiny R above the or below the player's card at the end screen, which did make it a bit harder for new people to realize. But yeah, that's always good. Obviously keeps the scene a bit cleaner, helps out. They were discussing sort of secretly some of the things they want to do in terms of how the anti-cheats work and how it should be safe, where there won't be false positive bans. So I imagine kind of similar to Counter-Strike, where like you try and limit the chance of a false positive, but do want to have the ability to take out cheaters as and when you identify that stuff as well. But obviously it's good that they don't really tell us how that works, because then cheat developers and bad actors can't abuse it. But always nice, you know, keeps the cursed apple clean. I know, God, that
Keeps the curtains
you imagine
clean,
that
lad.
one. Bloody hell. Oh, what's happened there? It's cursed.
So yeah, really, really nice. Happy to see that one. This is a big change, by the way, especially for me, and it might not be for others, but you can now drag and drop items between categories and builds. Oh, so amazing. I would hate having to go back to the items and create a new category and then back to the items. Now I can just put all the items in one category and then organize it myself after that, which is very nice. So you should see some more builds being brought up together quicker, and also you can make your own builds much easier and not have to rely on other people, so you can figure out what works for you. Localization support for German, Polish, and Korean. Very nice. And again, the matchmaking window is now open 1 hour earlier on weekdays and weekends, so I'm getting less of a life to live here, guys. It's not good.
I mean, it's nice though. You know, this keeps happening every single patch, basically, or every major patch at least. It feels like we get an extra hour of deadlocks, like daylight saving times, deadlock saving times.
Yeah.
Eventually, obviously, we're going to get to the point where the servers are just on.
They're just open.
They're just open.
And I'm there till 8 a.m.
We're never getting any sleep. I think the EU server is currently based out of Sweden.
Yeah.
As well. I think that's it, because there's only one hub of servers for each region right now. Imagine, obviously, when the game comes out, you probably have a little bit more server freedom in terms of the ping. So it's also like Deadlock's only going to get smoother and smoother, I would assume, in terms of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of strange though, because it feels like it's less based out of Sweden, more based out of America at the moment, with the amount of American players that we find.
A lot of EU Americans on the server.
I played a game last night where it was just some, I think it was a Polish guy, basically just going, go to bed. And he's like, no, I need my deadlock fix. I need it. And he's like playing with Canyon. He's like, no, go to sleep.
You're ruining this for me. Please go to bed.
It's so funny, like other players encouraging each other to get a good night's rest, which is incredible. Again, next one is players can only pause once per game. Thank the Lord.
Yeah.
And a team can only pause at most 3 times in total amongst the players. Now, this does kill a little bit of a case of one of your teammates DCs. You can't just mash pauses together and the game goes on forever. I appreciate this change because it was getting abused quite a bit in terms of just pauses coming through, horrible timings during team fights as well, or positions where you can maybe think about your next move, what you wanted to hit next. So I'm glad that we have changed that now. Very important. And the application now flashes when a game's on pause, so you're not there drooling, waiting for the game to restart, and you actually will know when the game's restarting because you get flashbacks.
Exactly. If you tab out, the icon will flash itself, so you'll at least be aware of what's going on if you're like on a different menu. But yeah, again, that's a really good one, because obviously like in Dota 2, it's not there to be abused. It's there for specific pause related things. In this game, again, like man, especially right now where it's being developed, we've had it sometimes like a teammate DCs at the start of the game. You've got to get them back in laning, especially that like first couple minutes. If you don't have your teammate, it's rough. Like if you're in a duo lane, so yeah, just pausing for those moments. I saw some people incentivizing you to spam pauses together to tilt teams and stuff like that. It's like, that's not the point. It's not the point.
We're not doing timeouts. We're not doing timeouts in Deadlock. Okay, it's not how this works.
It's a technical timeout. That's what it is. It's a technical timeout for a related issue to fix it. It's not a tactical. It's not a let's take 6 minutes of a game here to chat about this. Let's chain it together to frustrate. Like, don't do that.
Don't do that. It's not cool. Melee trainer bot in the gym. I think Jacky dropped a little tweet about this. Just it randomly hits a melee and you can hit the parry on it. This was suggested by a community member as well, actually, which is really nice that they're listening, seeing all the stuff that's happening in the forums. So if you've got a good idea that you'd like to throw in there, head over to the forums. You will need to sign up, but easily done.
Oh, quick one on that, what won't be in the notes as well. Yoshi said today, I believe it was this morning, he was saying that basically they changed the way the forums work, so you no longer have to have an account. You can be a guest if you want to read the changelog. So obviously, if you have access to Deadlock, but I know some people have had issues where they're saying they can't make a forum account or it's not giving their info. To fix that, by the way, it should just be play one game, and then you should be able to click on view forum info in the hero tab area, the new one they've added. That should give it to you. But you don't even need an account. So if you're just a guest and you want to read the patch notes and you're at work and you forgot your login info or something on your iPhone or whatever, you can view them now. So you can click on the patch notes. So that's nice as well.
Yeah, which is really, really good. Out of the game out of date status message, again, it's just more beautiful things being added to the game. It just looks nicer. Looked much cleaner when I saw it pop up the first time. I was like, oh, that's nice. Thank you, guys.
A little blue Steam icon at the top where it would normally just say, I don't think it popped up with anything. I think it was just like server disconnected or something.
I think there was a game out of date. Maybe it was just server disconnected.
I don't think there was.
So.
I think there was the red server disconnect one when you were offline, and that was it. Yeah, but yeah, like you say, this one just indicates a bit more. You have an update for the game.
Added unavailable state to zipline UI when zipline is on damage cooldown. That's a nice one. I like that one a lot. I think there is a lot of players coming in and weren't understanding why they couldn't jump on the zipline, but you have around about a 4-second delay after taking damage where you can't get on a zipline. So that's nice to have there. That pops up on the screen. Spectating controls now use left, right mouse buttons to switch between players on a team and space to switch teams. I am still struggling with this because I'm used to spamming spacebar to click through all my teammates. But yet, I think this is more of a thing for maybe observing games, which is interesting.
I mean, yeah, it's a nice change. It makes it a bit easier. There is. Weirdly, whilst we're on the subject of that, I don't know if you are listening, Valve. I know you seem to see a little bit of the stuff we do. If you've made it to like an hour in, quick one. It seems like the LERP 2 commands and being able to set angles and stuff like that for what would effectively be able to allow observers to make camera pans. It did work up until about early June, but then it broke. Something broke it. And I don't know why. I posted about this. I messaged Yoshi about it just in case. I don't know if it went through. I might make a little forum post maybe following this. But, you can't make like LERP 2 go to spectator cam paths right now, which would be huge for the game, especially long term when it's out and if there's a tournament scene or for people making videos even. That stuff would be sick. So if we can get that in, that would be a really cool change to spectating.
Also, the hide replay HUD was working around at the same time, and that also got busted. So
that one I think they intentionally disabled, weirdly. I don't know why that was. I hypothesized that they did it to try and stop people that were making like, do you remember there was all the high MMR whatever videos that were coming out?
Yeah.
But they were like being posted publicly when you weren't supposed to. Because this would also hide your like player ID and match ID, so they couldn't track you down, right? I was thinking maybe they removed it because of that, but maybe we get it added back because basically they just put it behind a permanent developer block. They did the same thing with the command that let you go to first person. It would be sick if those commands were still available, but just SV cheats protected, you know?
Yeah, that would be good. So bringing those back would be nice. But I can understand why they're out of the game. What else is there? Added alternate shop music, which plays in the neutral shop. So those are the ones in the center. I like that a lot because it actually has a reasoning behind it. These are the shops that both teams can use. So there's obviously a different Curiosity shop music. We have all that over on the channel that you can check out over at Dead Air.
The fun thing about that as well, by the way, is now basically you have two variants, the shop music for Amber, the shop music for Sapphire, and then this new shop music that is a bit of a mixture of both, and then halfway through the song it starts playing in a different piano key. It plays in a major key rather than a minor key. So it's
I like that.
Yeah, it's actually what they've done kind of gives more visual identity, even in terms of audio, to, I'm on the Sapphire side of the map. I'm on the Amber side of the map. I'm in the neutral underground shops, you know? Yeah. So it's really sick, actually. Like you said, it's on the channel as well. We've got all the music. If you want to go listen to that, it's a banger. It's like 2.5 minutes long, has loads of different variants to it. New piano keys, if you like Muzak.
Bit of Muzak for you. You can grab it. Go check it out. Added a new respawn countdown music 5 seconds before respawn. I was playing very late at night after the patch dropped. My cat opened the door to my room, which sounds like this, by the way. And then that countdown music started playing, which was like, and I thought I was being possessed.
Yeah.
I thought I was being possessed. I thought a ghost had just entered the room, and I was moments before death. So that really spooked me. Almost had a heart attack, but I was just respawning. That's all it was. So I can't imagine too many other people worried about that, because it was just a case of me trying to get a feel for the game, like directly after the patch dropped. But that scared me. That scared me big time. So nice one, Yoshi. You got me good. You got me good.
Goofed you.
Goofed me big time. We can skip over a couple of these, just spectator changes. Fix selling items, not removing charges correctly. So again, this was similar to the abuse that we saw a couple of weeks ago, where if any ability had +1 charge to it, you could upgrade that ability, get the +1 charge, use it, and then quickly refund it. There was still a way to abuse this though with extra charge, which is the item that effectively does the same thing, but you immediately sell it and keep that ready charge on your ability. So that doesn't work anymore. What else have we got in here that's important? Added new effects for Withering Whip and update ethereal shift effects. I like both of these, and you had some great examples of these in the patch notice.
Catch that in the patch notice. Yeah. Withering Whip, basically it's like a very nice skull that will float in your hand, and when it hits, it has like a nice purple effect to it, as a new sound as well. And then ethereal shift, I think it's almost like it's kind of a purple sort of smoke aura that follows you, and then you're tinted with like a black smoke that tugs you down. But yeah, all the visual and sound effects for all this stuff, you can see those in patch notes. About 6 minutes in, there's a whole segment that's just the sounds and visuals of the new update.
Yeah, so that is actually very important to take note of, though, because we are adding a lot of on-use items, and active items are a very important part of Deadlock. The problem with the active items was there's not a great way to know what you're getting hit with. So I think visual identity is a big important thing to be taken note of here. I think I'd appreciate if some of these were slightly larger. So for instance, the Withering Whip one looks really nice, but the skull still feels slightly small. But again, adding more things like that for Silence Glyph, Curse. Curse has got a really nice effect on it when it hits, but I'd like maybe a different travel time on it. But yeah, all this is really cool. I like it a lot. Gives you a chance to be like, I know what I'm being hit with here. That's Withering Whip. So I can still use my abilities. But if I'm a Wraith, I'm likely going to have to back out of this fight quickly, because I'm about to be disarmed for 3 seconds. It's not worth me continuing. Fixed part of Shiv's coat being considered a headshot. Damn, thought that was intentional.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because obviously it was just like draped over his shoulder and being carried, so you could kind of use it as part of his hitbox. But I guess it was just a weird leftover in the way his hitbox worked.
So a huge amount of just new changes, sounds, updated Lash Grapple Cast sound, remove Wind and City ambient looping sound. So I like that one, because although it does make the overall Cursed Apple a little less lively, I think the important thing to note is that there's a lot of things going around the map, and sound cues are incredibly important in this game. If you can hear someone doing jungle, I genuinely think that the sound design is... I haven't talked about this yet, but the sound design in Deadlock is unbelievably good in terms of directional sounds.
Oh yeah, it's sick. It's like Counter-Strike, dude. You just know where people are with audio alone.
I don't know how they've achieved it, because there are other games out there where also very much rely on audio cues that just don't do it as well as Deadlock, which is masquerading as a MOBA right now. So not something expected, but yeah, reducing that is very nice. It does allow you to take advantage of like a case of, I know the Wraith's in the basement right now doing jungle because I can literally hear her. So that's good. What else have we got here? More just Majestic Leap sounds, Bounce Pad sounds updated. Binding Word looks really cool, but is less noisy. What else? Yeah, just a huge amount of changes to and updates to visual and sound effects, which is nice. Again, when you get to the visual and sound effects for items, you know the game's in a good spot.
100% dude. That's what I mean. This patch, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, this patch had by far and large the biggest amount of visual and audio tweaks where you're doing a bit more of the art pass. It feels like the art team are coming in and being like, all right, we're going to do a whole lot of this stuff right now because the balance is getting to a point where there's not as many big balance changes. The balance changes, for the most part, are becoming more like a, minor patch to minor patch where something might be a bit broken or a bit weak. Then your major patches are getting a lot of gameplay features, your meat and potatoes of reworks, redesigns. One of those that did happen and that you can visually see as well was the teleporter model. This one was sick, dude. So teleporters have been basically completely changed in terms of gameplay. Across the map now, you have far more options to utilize them as well. So there's 6 teleporters, or actually 6 set paths with 8 teleporters across the map. And they've been moved a little bit all down on low ground and given a new model, and the model is the police call box, the old like British police call box, obviously famously used in Doctor Who as the TARDIS.
Yeah, it does. Is it 8 teleporters? I think it's 8 teleporters now. No, because there's
you have 8 teleporters with 4 routes across the map.
Yeah. So there is even more now, and I think the cool one at the moment is the teleporters that sit next to the tier 3 camps right on the very side of the maps.
The edges.
Yeah.
Those are sick because obviously you can, if you get called to go to the complete opposite side of the map, TP. Remember, like, factor that in as well now. 5-second channel time to TP is where you're going closer by teleport. Will it be longer than 5 seconds? If answer is no, then TP.
Yeah, I think that actually it helps a lot because this is something I've talked about a lot before in terms of the earn macro, in terms of, if they're doing earn, push a lane out on the other side of the map. Now there's big opportunity for when you're finished pushing that lane, you can't really go any further. You can go assist with the earn because you can immediately teleport across the other side. So it's actually really good in terms of, you've got 3 players there. You've got 1 person escorting the guy with the urn. The other 2 players can take the teleporter and immediately get towards the urn hand-in and defend it. So again, just more opportunities for sick rotates around the map, figuring out how you want to play that macro a lot better. But yeah, it's I think the teleporters are very cool. Again, I think it will be a little bit more time before people fully figure them out of how they like to use them best. But they are there and they look awesome. Yeah. The model's really cool.
That's the other one as well. I saw so many people that were reacting to all the teleporter content I've been making where people just go, there's teleporters?
Yep, that's right, guys.
So yeah, they exist. Also now as well, by the way, so they don't operate. For the first 10 minutes of a game, they're shut. The doors are closed. They then open from the 10-minute marks. You can't TP for the first 10 minutes of a game of Deadlock now. The other cool one is as well, I showed it off in patch notice, but it looks like Valve wanted to make a reference to Portal 2's logo, because obviously the way you spaced out the wording, it's tele space on the other side, port, and it looks like the Portal 2 logo with a blue guy running through the portal for the blue side of the portal. They've just kind of changed the way the pose looks a little bit. So that was cool, like a little sort of reference there to Portal 2, which is nice. Also, the other one with that as well is that I'm not sure if it is exactly the same, but the springboard sound for the bounce pad sounds incredibly similar to Portal 2 as well.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really, really cool. The other one is they moved the flex slot from set of enemy base guardians. So that was in terms of taking the inner guardians on a base. You only had to take 1 pair to all enemy lane guardians. So those are the first guardians you encounter at the start of the game when you're in your laning phase. And I think this is a really important change because not only did they do that, they also removed the AP that you would get from those guardians. So this kind of limits the quite literal deadlock of a game that would happen where you wouldn't be able to progress in a match as you would just be starved for a flex slot. Now it makes it a lot more of an equal footing, I would say, if you can get that final lane guardian. Also encourages more rotating to pick up those guardians overall. But it was less of a case that if you weren't able to shunt a team out and grab those guardians because they were being so well defended and they just consistently push you in. So not only are you behind, not only would you be behind in terms of 24 ability points, so that's 4 per member of the team, you would be also in this struggle situation where you'd be able to get nothing done. This way, at least, you know, if you're able to take some Guardians, you're still going to get your ability points, you're still going to be at equal footing, and it's less of those games that are lost at 10 minutes now. Because that's really frustrating, where you finish your laning phase, you've won against your opponent, but it doesn't matter because the rest of your team is unable to get any of those lane Guardians. You're still going to be that much stronger because you'll have those souls on board to get those ability points. I'm a really big fan of this change. I like it a lot. I also enjoy getting your flex slot early on. So it's not just a case of where you sat on 10k souls but you can't buy anything.
No, 100%. This and the AP change to Guardians are both great updates where you balance the game now more around playing the game and leveling and farming, and actually, you know, not having the egregiousness of basically if we start wiping all of your towers, we not only now have control of those lanes off the back of your towers being destroyed where your Guardians go down and our creep pushing, but we also are way stronger in terms of our AP. Our AP is vastly further ahead than yours is, so our abilities are stronger, so we're doing more damage. You know, you snowball quite heavily. So the fact that they made it so you don't get rewarded AP, you instead get it at set soul levels, that's better. And like you say, with this change to the actual sort of towers themselves in terms of when you get awarded flex slots, because back in the day, you know, it was a lot easier obviously in terms of I'd basically just be like, oh, I'm just gonna go destroy one of the base Guardians. I want a flex slot.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
if I'm on haze, or you know, I'd sneak in, break those, peace out. If you die, you die, but your entire team can now buy one extra item, and of course, it's extra ability points as well. But yeah, that was the other change that went along with it. So don't get misled, by the way. Right now in game, we noticed when we were playing today, still has the AP icon pop up when you destroy Guardians, but you don't actually get that ability point anymore. That's probably just a visual leftover that'll get changed because you've made the gameplay change, not the art change. But soul levels, it's AP now being awarded at these 4 soul levels: 3,500, 5,200, 8,000 and 9,700.
Yeah, which is very nice because I do think that the way that the game was playing out was if you had not the greatest of teams, you could lose a game by 10 minutes and you barely stepped into mid-game. And I prefer the fact that, you know, you close all the teleporters, so you're actively limiting players from rotating around the map really quickly early on. So you are enclosed into your laning phase. If you're playing in one of the mid lanes, maybe you get a couple of ganks off towards the 2 lanes either side of you, but you are sort of enclosed to your own lane. And doing that would require the game not to be over at that 10-minute mark if all your other lanes lose. There's still now an opportunity to carry in terms of a team not getting crazily ahead. In terms of AP, you can still have that big impact if you're able to outplay. So I like this a lot, and it has actually increased my game time limit quite substantially. I think I don't remember seeing as many games that end at 16 to 18 minutes anymore. That's more of a outlier where we have really crushed every single lane has won, and that way we can push all the Guardians and all the Walkers in. But now if it feels like 1 lane or 2 lanes do well, you do have a case where a game's going to go like 20-25 minutes. That feels like more reasonable to me.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Extending the average length for games to a change like that is far more balanced. A lot of the feedback that I saw from at least the people that follow the Dead Air stuff as well, and our kind of community of it, were also saying they like that change. Yeah, the Deadheads. They were saying they like that change and think that generally it's better because it means it's a more balanced gameplay experience every time you play a game, rather than, you know, pulling ahead off of the back of taking out their Guardians and having that as some skewed data every game. So I can see why people like it. I don't think it's a bad change. I think it makes sense. It's another one of those where Valve have had time to kind of see how it goes, and you make a change like this. Remember, the other thing is as well, in a lot of these patches on a one week or 2 week basis, things get changed, and then by next week they might get changed back, or the following week they might get somewhere more in the middle. We've seen that a lot. Even in this patch, there's another one where walkers, you remember last patch, or I think last major patch even, walkers were changed where you had to be 30 meters. 30 meters was the maximum distance between you and attacking them. But that was pretty close. Like on Orange Lane, if you're up close towards the walker, you had to be in front of the bridge, the green bridge that would be on top. You had to be past that. And it was a bit much. Now it's just on the precipice of the green bridge. You can kind of be in the middle or slightly further back because it's 32 meters again, which is what it used to be. So they've changed that one back to how it used to be. So sometimes Valve do try things out. see how it goes. Then you've got the data and you can decide. So you don't with Deadlock patches, if you're just getting into the game, don't feel too overwhelmed where you're like, whoa, this is a huge change. I don't know how to deal with this. Because you'll get used to it super quick. It just feels weird the first game.
It really does.
That's kind of how quick you learn things have changed in Deadlock, though.
Yeah, the thing is that with especially the walker distance, there's a case where 30 meters, you had to be right on the edge of the stun radius of the walker, where you could actually get that. So it felt extremely dangerous, where you couldn't really poke down walkers whilst there were players underneath it without putting yourself in extreme danger. So yeah, you were kind of walking the line on that one. So I like the change, bringing back to 32 meters. There's a couple of fun spots you can take as well around the walker, where you do have to more invest into some of those higher ground areas that sit around it to get the shots on. I think I show some of those off in the new Vindicta video that's coming up soon. So you can check that out there. Golden statues drop rate increased by 6%. So that's big. So that's the permanent bonuses in games. So for instance, plus 4% weapon damage, plus 1% cooldown reduction, all this kind of stuff. They'll be happening more often. So break your statues, boys. And there's been more added to the top of the rooftops, in addition to a lot of the new areas on the map that are now accessible. So make sure you're going around breaking boxes, breaking statues, because remember, 4% weapon damage is substantial and it racks up.
It does. It adds up a lot. There's an awful lot of them across the map, like you said, even more now. And the density of them isn't bad. Subway is still by far the best in terms of density of crates and golden statues. But the rooftops aren't bad. There's 1 to 2 on a lot of new rooftops that have become playable. So if you're rotating, farm them. Make sure, basically what Valve has done with this patch, again, is like what we saw a little while ago when they made their last major map changes. It opens up new ways to rotate. So you always have a quick path, but be it underground, overground, wombling free if you're a fan, but also now on roofs as well, right, where you kind of aren't blocked off by awkward geometry. It's just I can go one of 4 ways, and those 4 ways all have different things to grab along the way. Either a rope, a zip line, boxes. There's something to do, so you're always engaged. There's never downtime in Deadlock, which feels like it's been that way since we started playing. But the longer it's been out, or the longer it's been in development, the more that's been the case. Where there's always 5 right decisions to make at any given time, and they're trying to reward you for any of those kind of decisions, really. Other one as well, they made it so you have +3 to your earn delivery sprint bonus now. It was +2 for a while. +3 is crazy. That's pretty fast.
Yeah.
But you still had some people that I think struggle a little bit to read the minimap design right now, where they're newer. It doesn't quite make sense to them. I think maybe, it's catching them off guard a little bit, all the different icons. You're not sure what you're looking at. Is it a power-up? Is it the earn delivery point? So to combat that, obviously you have the new big visual effect for an earn coming in, which looks like, sort of tornado blue souls. But the drop-off point for the urn is now a red urn indicator with basically arrows underneath it and a big red circle. Yeah. It looks pretty imposing and cool. So if you're looking to drop off the urn visually, the red one is where you want to go.
Take the red one. Get it in there. I feel like red is an interesting choice of colors, but we'll run with it. I feel like maybe it should change from red if the enemy has it and green if you have it. I think I quite like that. So
to show who's holding the urn.
Yeah, because I think that would be nice, and it would line up with what you see on the minimap, where it's the green bordered square when you have it, and red bordered square when the enemy has it.
Yeah, that actually could make sense. I did think red felt a bit jarring, almost like not ready or something, for some players, if they use like color theory in that sense. We'll see. Again, though, like we just said, right, stuff changes every patch, so that one will probably get tweaked. But it's them going to more of a visual indicator of where to drop it. Before, it used to just be a circle on the floor that was blue. So it's a bit different there. Parrying also got changed slightly. 1 second shorter on the cooldown now. So it's not 6 seconds anymore, it's 5 seconds. Which actually, again, like we said, I know that might not seem like a big change, but that changes a lot of stuff in terms of being able to parry that second sooner against certain heroes, especially if you watch one of our more recent tip videos as well. We were showing off the fact when you hit a parry, it instantly refreshes your cooldown, so you can use it in some ingenuitive ways where you chain parries together. If you do muck up that sequence and only stun one person, mess up your following parry, it's only 5 seconds. So keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, for especially against Abrams players who you really got to knowledge check those guys, see if when they're punching, if they're light meleeing, if they're heavy meleeing, when they heavy melee. It's going to give you a little bit more reasonable leeway. Now, the next stuff is just a lot of map changes, visual changes in terms of several buildings made taller so their rooftops are out of bounds, and some buildings made shorter. But this is all stuff that I would happily direct you to patch notice. on the YouTube channel, because we have a lot of visual places to have a look at what's changed there. And realistically, we've already gone over a lot of just the new opportunities in terms of wall jumping, etc. So I would happily send you over there, take a look at that. It's on the channel underneath patch notice.
It's also, if you have a forum account, we post all of these on the forums. I do every single before and after screenshot. It's in our Discord as well. On the official Discord, there is the patch notice sub discussion, and I post all of them in there. So there's places to see all of these before and after screenshots. I also posted some of the more important ones over on the Twitter. So that's at Deadlock Air on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah.
Another quick one for that as well. We are in the process. It should probably be up maybe a couple hours after this podcast airs. So if you're listening in the future, it's already out. We're making a Dead Air Discord for it. So there's going to be a nice Discord that you can come and post stuff in. And we'll have all that stuff in there as well. So patch to patch, you can access all these pictures of visual changes a little bit easier. So that's one for those deadheads out there that are like, oh, I wish I had a place to discuss this. Subreddit, good. Discord, good. You've got options.
Yeah, you've got places to be. We'll happily see you over there if you decide to join. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of it, which is weapon items and hero changes alongside vitality and spirit, of course. So starting off, monster rounds, bullet resist versus NPC increased from 30 to 35%. Just desirable item in general in terms of maybe some trades in lane where you want to get more aggressive into their troopers. But yeah, just making that item a bit stronger. I think it wasn't getting too much use. It is nice for characters like, for instance, Ivy, as well as Viscous. Ivy in particular, because her mag at the start of the game is quite low. So if you want to confirm a lot of those souls early on, you don't want to have to be spending an entire mag on one trooper, only to have no more bullets remaining left to confirm the soul afterwards. Hollow point rounds. Spirit shield increased from 80 to 85. So that took a big hit in a previous patch, Jacky, where we went down from, I believe it was 25% plus weapon damage over 60% HP to just 20%. So they gave it a little bit of love, which is nice.
No, it's always good to see little adjustments there. I think the buff for monster rounds is cool as well. I buy it now and then. It is nice if you just want to wave clear stuff, like you say, on champs that have lower ammunition. It's worth it. So bringing that up a little bit, just on a buff that only focuses around what it is you're doing with the item, like it says on the tin, right? Like you're just shooting monsters. So that's fine. Restorative shot as well. That's going to be the heal that you get from heroes. That's up by 5. So rather than 30, you're healing 35 on each proc of it. Again, makes it a little bit better. Restorative shot, it's a nice item to use, so any buffs there, I'll take happily.
Again, restorative shot's an interesting one, because I think with the heal being at 30, now brought up to 35, it makes it more of a desirable item. I've been starting buying it on Vindicta a lot more, because she's a bit more of a bully hero, alongside with some other characters like Talon. I think it's not a bad pick on him, because healing right became the de facto item. Like, why would you buy anything else?
Everyone was buying it.
For sustain in lane. Why would you buy anything else? Now restorative shot, the heal going up to 35 is really nice. That only applies to heroes, but it's now an item you can buy that has a nice mix between sustain and damage. So if you're more of a bully hero in lane, this is a good item to pick up, where it keeps you in the fight, but also gives you that more opportunity where it's a case of, I don't just have a heal on 60-second CD, I now also have a bit more damage to work with. So I really like that. Requires a bit more tactical usage rather than just throw the healing right on yourself and sit behind the curiosity shop. It's a good change.
Again, I think as well, we always talk about this, where it's nice that Valve give you different options to do the same thing. So again, on this one, it's like, if you're good at aiming, if you're good at hitting your shots, and you're a bit smarter in terms of like, oh, maybe I'm better at active healing in terms of fighting, restorative shots for you, versus healing right, where it's more, I want to be a little bit more supportive. Maybe I've got a teammate in lane that I might need to heal now and then, or heal myself. It's useful for that as well. I'd say as well, especially if you're playing with someone that's a bit newer, maybe even just pick up healing right just to help them out. Just use that on them. And it's a bit counterintuitive in the grand scheme, but right now, whilst you're trying to help people get a flow of the game, people do seem to struggle to know, maybe I should back off. So you teach them that. Tell them to stand by the banners as well. Stand by the banners, you heal. So look out for that, newer players.
High velocity mag, bullet velocity reduced from plus 35% to plus 30. It has an upgrade now, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, high velocity mag was a bit strong. Most people were buying it on practically every single hero. Just because it sat you closer to hit scan. And let me sort my camera out really quick. Come on. Come on, focus on my face. Thank you.
Here, I'm just going to shut the window. There's some ambient noise.
Do
so
it.
I'm just gonna wheel over. Carry on. I'll be back.
So bullet velocity reduced from 35% to 30%. It was good on a lot of heroes in terms of just getting you closer to that hit scan state, particularly on Vindicta, who likes to take those long range shots as well. So if you're any character that's building into long range / sharpshooter, high velocity mag is actually very useful because it means you don't have to lead your shots as much. I think every character in the game currently is projectile based, even though it doesn't seem like it sometimes. The only character that is currently hit scan is Bebop. Next one would be active reload. Lifesteal reduced from 30% to 22%. Big nerf on this one. And the buff duration was reduced from 8 to 7%. So 8 seconds to 7 seconds. It is a very, very big nerf for active reload. It was becoming the de facto buy, but now it's more in line with Quicksilver reload. So you pick up active reload if you're a weapon damage character. You pick up Quicksilver reload if you're more on that spirit side of things. So I really like the changes there. Again, I think it was incredibly strong for a 1-2-50 item.
Fair enough, mate.
Thanks, bro. You like that?
That's all right. Yeah, I like active reload. I think it's a good item in terms of the way it works, and I do like the actual process of using it, if you know what I mean, in terms of it being a physical active reload. I think that was a cool mechanic to add to Deadlock as an item. I remember when that one came in, and I was like, oh, this is sick. What a fun item. But yeah, it was getting a bit too big for its britches.
It really was. It really was. It was a big buy for most characters. Kinetic dash, active fire reduced from 30% to 25%. Not a massive buff, but a buff all the same. Still gives you the additional bullet count though. So still very, very nice for shotgun characters. If you didn't know, adding 5 bullets to your mag on a shotgun character goes insane, by the way. So for instance, like Abrams, Pocket, and Shiv all love that item. Long range now grants plus 90 bullet shield. Another buff I would say to Vindicta players. So there's a lot of hidden buffs here to Vindicta, which come in the form of item buffs. So it's quite nice. Quite nice.
Yeah, those cheeky little changes. Melee charges as well, going to be granting you plus 1 HP regen now. So beneficial, of course, if you are going more into those melee builds where you want to be siphoning health back or just overall regenerating HP. You take that one on the chin. That's a nice little tick of health now and then. And Swift Striker is going to be giving you plus 10% ammo overall. Plus 10% ammo is actually quite substantial when you think about like mag sizes. Yeah. That's going to give you a decent chunk of extra ammo.
Yeah, in a massive way, which is very nice to see. Titanic magazine again receiving more buffs. Bullet armor increased from 10 to 15%. So almost on par with the initial bullet armor upgrade there. So very nice Titanic magazine. If you want some more bullet armor, you just buy into that. You might not even have to invest into the vitality category, and you can afford to spend 3k there. Toxic bullets heal reduction increased from minus 55% to minus 65%, and bleed damage reduced from 6% to 5%. So more of a decay type of item now been thrown in, which is sort of cool.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
I think that's the highest right now, actually, bro.
That's pretty crazy when you think about the fact then, even with it going down by 1% in terms of bleed damage, the actual heal reduction being up by 10% and having extra health from it. It's a really nice overall change for toxic bullets. That makes it a lot more lucrative of an item, really.
Yeah, very viable, especially for characters like Viscous as well, because Viscouses don't really build a lot into weapon items, but picking up a toxic bullet on Viscous could be quite nice.
Oh, mate. Yeah. Also, hypothesizing that we haven't got to it yet, but they reworked Viscous Gun in this patch, giving him a brand new ult fire, which is now an AoE. I think it uses 3 bullets per shot, and it's an AoE splash, so it can't headshot, but it does tag multiple players. You take that with knock-on effects, maybe a ricochet, maybe a toxic bullets. Whew, that could actually be a really cool way of splicing in a weapon item that works well with his new weapon, this kit.
Exactly, because it's the case you start a fight, you get everyone tagged up with toxic bullets, then you go into ball, and then you play from there. So I think that's a nice little upgrade for Viscous potentially and other characters that are more supportive. So yeah, cool one there. And it becomes very much now an anti-tank heal item. because I think that, you know, a lot of times that is the case you would have. You go up against an Abrams, Mo and Krill, a Dynamo, you'd be like, I'm buying toxic bullets into this game. But with minus 55 to minus 65% becomes even more potent. So yeah, that is now becoming the de facto anti-tank item. I like that a lot. This was a massive change, by the way, Jacky. I really like this change. Intensifying magazine now steadily ramps back down to 0% when you stop shooting rather than instantly emptying.
Ooh. Hey, that's sick. Yeah, I love that, actually. I didn't even clock that one before when I was looking through the notes for patch notice. That's really cool. I like that a lot. I think Intensifying Magazine has always been one of my favorite items to pick up on characters that have big damage output where you want to tick it up.
Yeah.
But that's nice. The way it doesn't just trickle down, the way it doesn't just turn off, it trickles down is a really fun change.
Yeah, so for instance, like now building maybe double active reload and quicksilver reload onto a Wraith, and you buy Intensifying Magazine, you could have essentially 3 clips, 3 magazines,
max damage output,
almost max damage output.
I wonder how that interacts if it just picks back up from the point it's left at then when you start dealing damage again, or if it has a ramp up period to that period, then starts adding on to the total, if you know what I mean, like behind the behind the scenes. We'll have to test that one, but that's really cool. I like that.
Well, that's a really cool way. I'm sorry, I'm just laughing at Warpstone. Warpstone Dedge. Active bullet resistance reduced from 40% to 30%. If you're just tuning in to Dead Air Podcast for the first time, where we do these full patch breakdowns, about 3 weeks ago, Warpstone active bullet resistance was 60%. It has consistently been rolled back. It's such a strong item, but it's now more in line with a case of this is a movement item. This is used to get into position. I think for instance, like Dynamos who would use Warpstone to get in and then hit Singularity. You have a case where he had 60% bullet resist on top of that. He's very hard to kill whilst in Singularity, so really, really cool. Another Vindicta buff, by the way. Sharpshooter now grants plus 175 bullet shield. No longer provides bonus headshot damage, but weapon damage increased from 60 to 70%. So, you know, you don't have that massive spike on the headshots, but if you're just beaming someone down with hipfire, this is still really strong. 70% weapon damage is kind of huge. I think that was where Glass Cannon was like a month ago before it really got all of its buffs to the extra damage on top of it. So super cool.
No, that's sick, dude. Yeah, and you're right as well. Like, the more you have a look here, what's being changed in terms of the items, you could see on a patch-to-patch basis, right? There felt like a period where Talon and Vindicta especially was becoming less played, less fun, because she just couldn't keep up.
Yeah.
Her kit didn't really slot in. The items combated her so much. She didn't have a way of being that like fun powerhouse that it felt like she was for a few months, man. She was super fun to play, and you could actually like snipe people. You could live the fantasy, do so much damage, in and out. I'm flying around. I'm sick, and then it just went. And it was like, man, if people are picking Vindicta right now, like she's just not worth
she has
playing.
A 44% win rate right now on track lock. She is the lowest out of every single
that's a
hero.
stat, dude. That's gross. But I do like we're seeing in this patch, and like we've been seeing with some of the other patches, right? Like the way you change slowing hex, the way you're changing certain gameplay mechanics, the way you're also giving them, that's the other thing, new ropes, new rooftops. As much as they benefit every hero, that's super useful for Vindictors. Rather than burning your stamina and not having enough stamina capacity, you're being forced to use your fly, you can now just climb up a rope in a matter of seconds, be in a vantage point, like play like Hitman as Vindicta.
Yeah.
You know, you're getting more opportunities for Talon and Vindicta to be aerial-based heroes, but already have vantage points to play off of, because you don't want to be on the ground.
Yeah.
Like, that's like you're at your weakest by far. So yeah, this patch is actually really cool for that in terms of the way that synergizes.
Yeah, another buff for Vindicta. Active burst fire, active duration increased from 3 to 4 seconds. Escalating resilience, max bullet resist increased from 36 to 40%. So that becomes kind of a nice item to buy if you're playing on a tank like Abrams. Another buff for Vindicta, alchemical fire cooldown reduced from 28 to 26 seconds. There's a lot of characters that can use alchemical fire, but they don't really get online until later, whereas Vindicta with Tether is able to use alchemical fire without even investing a single point into Tether other than that first one just to grab it. So kind of interesting. And again, this is the new tier 3 item, Headhunter. Requires high velocity mag, grants plus 50% 50% bullet velocity, so you're even closer hit scan, 50% weapon damage, 150 bullet shield, and the passive cooldown is landing a headshot on heroes deals bonus damage and heals you for 8% HP, grants plus 2 meters per second for 3 seconds, and the cooldown is 6 seconds.
I wonder who that's a buff for.
That's a Vindicta buff right there.
Yeah, it really is. Mate, that's sick as well, because that's like an item that perfectly gets you in a spot where like her snipe becomes unreal, and you actually want to use it as like a real impactful tool alongside even just her normal like gameplay loop of shooting. If you're hitting those headshots with the rate of fire she has, that's dope. It's
really, really cool. I think that this patch has been, because there is some Vindicta changes in terms of they actually look. So I looked at this patch briefly before.
Yeah.
And there are nerfs to Vindicta that we'll talk about later on, but it feels like in terms of just the weapon category, it's all just buffs for Vindicta.
Stuff that synergizes really well with a lot of our most popular builds by far.
Yeah, so it's really cool. It's mainly just a buff to Gundicta though, as opposed to playing the Spirit build. But yeah, really, really awesome. Because I think that's what she was built to be, was like a Spirit Gun hybrid character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were some Spirit builds that went loco for a while, but now I think Talon maybe fills more of that role, whereas Vindicta is the more gun-oriented one of the two sniper champs.
Yeah, 100%.
If you know what I mean? Or yeah.
Crazy stuff. Anyway, very cool. I'm going to be playing some more Vindicta later today, I think.
Yeah, let's get some Vindicta games in.
Yeah, I actually got a game on her that was quite good just after the patch dropped, so I can...
Is that going on the channel? Is that the video you're
I think that's the video that's going on the channel, so you get to see.
So enjoy that one.
Get to see how crazy she does go. Siphon Bullet weapon damage reduced from 40% to 28%. Now Siphon Bullets was a massive item that a lot of people were buying into. It just gave a lot for what it did in terms of making you tankier, increasing your damage as well. It was becoming more and more of an item that you would buy after Lucky Shot, which currently is the item from the weapon category that does the most damage. Potential damage, that is, because it is a lucky shot. You don't always get the procs on it, but I think a lot of the testing that's gone through from the deadheads out there and the eggheads as well said that this is
the boffins.
The boffins. This is the one that does the most damage for everyone. So very, very cool. Also, sorry. Ricochet fix not applying spirit bonus damage from Vindicta and Wraith abilities. Oh my god.
I clocked that one. That's what I'm saying, dude. Like it's all coming back to Vindicta right now.
That's so funny. Okay, I think we'll see a lot more Vindicta gameplay. Vitality items. Let's move into that.
Yeah, we'll slide on down. We obviously touched on this before, but I was saying melee items have been given a little bit of love. They all synergize a bit well together. So your melee lifesteal effectiveness versus non-heroes. So you're punching your little monsters all over the gaff, taking down the Candle Troopers, taking down other various jungle camps. That's going to be up by 5%. So from 35 to 40% effectiveness, which again, 5%. And if you look at it as a number, it doesn't seem that grandiose, but it is quite a big change.
Yeah, it's going to be nice, especially if you're in the lane, if you just want to get some healing back off. There's a lot of characters that do like to go for the punches. Viscous in particular likes to pick this item just for that early game sustain. Healing right, again, cooldown reduced from 65 seconds to 60 seconds, so makes it a bit more. I have noticed that is up a lot often in my games. And next on to Divine Barrier, Jacky, which has gained numerous changes here after it received its nerf of going from a 20-second cooldown to a 30-second cooldown. So I do think it needed some buffs.
Yeah, and you've given it a scattering of different increases here, basically. We'll go down the list. But like you say, you received quite a big nerf in terms of the overall cooldown, so you try to make up for it. Yeah, all right. We start with this plus 7% bullet resist. So a little bit more resistant to bullets. You get plus 1.5% health regen as well. Plus 1.5 rather, not percentage. That would be outrageous. One sprint as well, so you're going a little bit quicker there. So a bit of sprint being sprinkled back out. We saw a lot of sprint being taken off various items a couple patches ago. They were trying to strip down what gave you sprint outside of items that were specifically built for that reason.
Yeah.
So plus 1 sprint wherever you can get it is actually quite nice. That giving you a little bit of bonus move speed. Won't turn your nose up at that. 75% health being added and plus 8% ability range. 8% ability range, actually pretty nice, dude. I'd take that.
Yeah, it's 8% ability range is really, really good. 75 HP, not 75%, and it doesn't grant bullet resist or 1 point health.
I'm so
health
used
regen.
to saying percent.
So I had the same problem earlier.
It catches you.
I was
it
like
catches you.
7 seconds to 8% seconds. I was like, that's,
yeah, no, I know.
that
It always
work.
catches you, and then you're like, hang on a minute, that doesn't make any sense. But yeah, 75 base health.
So I do like a lot of the changes they made to Divine Barrier. I mean, 7% bullet resist, you don't need that if you're getting the barrier on top of it, as well as the 1.5 health regen being removed. That's fine as well. +1 sprint, I think you hit on a really important point there, Jacky, in the sense that we are reducing sprint across the board. So wherever you can grab sprint, it's great. An 8% ability range actually is kind of big for some characters. I'm kind of wondering who's going to take advantage of that most. Next one, combat barrier now also grants +8% fire rate while active, which is kind of cool. Those combat barriers do get chunked through very quickly, but it depends how much bullet shield you can max out. And Enchanter's Barrier now also grants 8% cooldown reduction while active. So again, these two items used to just be a case of it gave you a bit of weapon damage, gave you a bit of spirit, but now they really do feel like a combat barrier and an Enchanter's Barrier. So they add additional things to their flavor of item.
It's living up to the name of the item a bit more. It's a bit more thematically accurate to what it is you're buying, which obviously that's the whole point, right? Is you want to understand it based off like the theming of the name. Reactive barrier as well. Remember, I think this was back on the 17th. We saw that having its cooldown massively nerfed, where it's not just up constantly, because it was for a while. It felt like if you bought reactive barrier, it was just always up. Now they've also gone ahead and reduced the duration of it, and that goes down by quite a bit. 13 seconds. That's lengthy. That could almost be, you know, like a good chunk of a fight, if not some early game fights for a very long time. It's only 9 seconds now.
Which is important, because reactive barrier was a case of you bought it, especially on squishier characters like Talon, like Vindictor, like Wraith. You bought it on those characters because you wanted a case where if you got hooked, if you got immobilized, if you got stunned, you wanted that reactive barrier there to take the brunt of the damage in that moment. You didn't want it to be a case where reactive barrier lasts the entirety of the team fight and you have that bullet shield and spirit resist for that entire time. It's designed as an anti-burst item. And it's not designed as a defensive item during the team fight, because 13 seconds, like I say, is way, way too long. But I think that it's now in line of... And it's cool that Valve has changed that. I actually really like the change, because I think it would be difficult if you weren't playing the game a lot and you weren't looking into all these things often enough, because I agree with that change massively, in the sense that it should just be there as a reactive barrier in the moment and not something that lasted forever. So great job, Valve. Really like that change.
No, again, like it's another one where, as well, like we said last time, you look at like the name and the role of the item based off like the theme of it and what it's supposed to do, and it gives you a lot of the telltale signs of like, all right, here's how we rebalance it. Then we will make it a bit more of a reaction to certain instances where it is for that moment. You know, it's a swift react where it might save your life if you're building around it and factoring it in for that. Not a consistent, not a gimme item. So fair play. That's a nice little change. Healing booster as well had a slight change. And this one, again, kind of does make sense. So you remove the plus 6% bullet resist from it. So it doesn't have that anymore, but you give yourself 15% heal reduction resist.
What do they call it? The degeneracy resist or something like that. One of the other
degen resist.
Resist in some of these other patches that came through, which was really funny.
I think they changed the wording on that now. I haven't used that since.
Which is kind of funny. I think the big one there is that Leech no longer has that, because Leech was an unreal item to buy in terms of being able to just live, and also increasing the amount of heals that you'd get from like the Spirit Lifesteal and the Bullet Lifesteal. So again, you have to invest the healing booster now to give yourself that healing reduction resist, which is important. So characters that heal a lot, like Abrams, you're going to benefit from the healing booster anyway, but you're also going to benefit for the fact that that toxic bullet isn't going to cripple you as hard as it did before. Sort the camera out again, as per usual. Goodness me. Next one is superior stamina, air jump and dash distance, reduced from 40% to 30%. Was egregious. You got to the point in the game where certain characters were impossible to track down unless you had a stun or something of that like, and I think some characters are really abusing this item. So I'm glad that superior stamina got that. You're already getting like, I think, what is it, +3 stamina charges off the back of superior stamina. Having 40% extra distance on it just makes it so incredibly strong. A lot more people are buying into this item now, especially on characters with little to no stamina. Vindicta starts with 2. Talon doesn't start with a lot either, so superior stamina is really big. And again, this is a direct nerf to Talon, because Talon's able now to dash in the air. You give him superior stamina as well, this guy repositions like crazy.
Yeah, that's going to be a nice one. Again, man, I am glad you're seeing a little bit more love there for some of these other characters that need a little bit more more changes in terms of Vindicta and Talon as well, where items are being based around that. I saw some people as well that kind of, I think, didn't realize where they've come in, and they were looking at some of the other most recent patches, and they're looking at smaller balance changes for items and not really understanding. Like a lot of this stuff does get tweaked incredibly regularly on a patch by patch basis. We're seeing items, get entirely overhauled, especially in the past month. I feel like August, we've had some of the biggest overhauls in terms of Valve finding the identity of like, these items will do what they say they will do, rather than giving you a myriad of different buffs and making it so you have multiple options to spec into particular things, but you're not sort of shoehorned into one path, or not just given everything from every item. So it's getting a lot more to the point, especially with the visual effects we're now adding, where I think items are getting to a really good place across the board. And it's never one of those where we're seeing too many head scratches. We're not looking at stuff and being like, oh, it's a weird, that's a weird change. It's always like, all right, yeah, this actually does make sense. I can see what they're doing here. A lot of it's been nice overall to see what you're tweaking.
Yeah, exactly. It's just stuff that makes sense. And I think they're just slowly bringing things back. Again, a lot of things were very overpowered, and that's fair enough. You put them in a position where they're strong, people want to buy them, and then you figure out why they're buying them, and you can change from there, which is great. Next one on the list is Metal Skin. Cooldown reduced from 25 to 22 seconds. If you're not buying Metal Skin in your games versus characters like Haze, Vindicta, as well as Wraith, it's a great item to have, especially versus a Wraith. She hits you with the telekinesis. You have that travel time on telekinesis, so you can pre-pop Metal Skin as it hits you, and that will completely annihilate her combo.
It will save your life in that instance instantly. Also, for you split pushing McGinnis out there who want to be really annoying, I've already seen an uptick of McGinnis is buying more Metal Skin. It was common and popular before. If you want the unholy trinity of the Metal Skin, in the self-res into the return fire, then it's even more effective now to be incredibly annoying as a solo. So if you want to just burn down Guardians and Walkers and not play with your team, then those are the items for you.
That's a good tweet, actually. The unholy trinity of Soul Rebirth, Return Fire, and Metal Skin. I like that a lot. Hazes hate this.
Doctors have said this is the worst combo.
So that's cool. Rescue Beam channel duration reduced from 3 seconds to 2.5 seconds. It was a bit annoying getting dragged around by teammates. So I think this is technically a buff, because it will also increase the speed at which the Rescue Beam will return you back to your teammate. Life Strike, same thing as Melee Lifesteal, because it is the upgraded version of the item. Effective versus non-heroes increased from 35% to 40%, so you're getting the exact same benefit. And Fortitude, Veil Walk, and Majestic Leap are all just cooldown reductions, but it's very minor. It's not huge.
All right, it's fair. It's all right overall. I mean, anything now that is a slight buff to Veil Walker, or little tweaks here and there as well, when we see adjustments made to that, I'm always kind of happy with, because it was, if you weren't there, it used to be an outrageous item in every sense of the word. And then it's gotten a bit more balanced and really gone through some overall changes ever since it became a vitality item. But it's still fun to use, and I do like kind of having that freedom to use it a little bit more. So 1 second's always nice. You're going to knock a little bit off, make it a little bit stronger again in some ways. I'll take that. A Majestic Leap, I think as long as that's up regularly enough to be used for kind of its number one purchase goal, which is that quick vantage point on characters like Seven, stuff like that, where you need to use it for one particular setup to synergize well with the rest of your kit, then it's a great option. I've seen some people now as well, by the way, either going for the Ivy airdrop if they have an Ivy, or foregoing that if you have the leftover souls for it. Magic carpeting into the ult, which feels for me like a bit of a soul sink for what it is, but it is funny. It is funny to see kind of this Aladdin with a bug zapper on its back fly in and then just start zapping everyone from mid.
That is kind of cool. I quite like that a lot. But yeah, so interesting combos galore being added to the game on a regular basis, just in terms of items. And I think that's how you know you've got good item design, is where items can change the flow of gameplay as well as the flow of combinations, which is super cool. On to the very final items here. So the 6,300 items. Leech no longer has 30% heal reduction resist. It was already an unreal strong item. I think adding 30% heal reduction resist means that people buy it are slightly more killable, which is nice. Unstoppable can now be cast while channeling. Awesome change, especially for heroes like Bebop and particularly 7. Now it's the case that if you don't need the Unstoppable at the start of your ultimate, when you're hitting the thundercloud, this is going to be really good for you. So as soon as you see someone maybe drop a knockdown on you, or they drop a Wraith telekinesis over towards you, you have the travel time, then you can hit Unstoppable, because the Unstoppable duration is not that long. It does not last as long as a 7 ult, so now you can be a bit more reactive. Again, it was also really frustrating pressing Majestic Leap, Unstoppable, then Thundercloud at the same time. So I think this is a really good change and makes Unstoppable a bit more of a favorable item, and there's more outplay potential, because a lot of times it was a case where Unstoppable would work really well with those channeled abilities, because you're expecting people to instantly stun you, but that's sort of low MMR behavior. People are likely going to wait out the Unstoppable before they hit you with knockdown.
That's low MMR behavior.
It is low MMR behavior. I mean, it was easy to move into. So I think
that's funny.
This is more skill ceiling on an item, and the cooldown reduces 65 to 60 seconds, helps out Bebop, because now it's going to be available roughly at the same time as your Hyper Beam is up. So cool. I like it a lot.
No, that's sick, man. Again, like, you know, I think all of these changes are perfectly acceptable, and like you say, it just puts it into a better position to make it far more useful, having Unstoppable. All right, then. Let's get into one piece of the unholy trinity itself. Soul Rebirth has had a few changes. Cooldown reduction increased from plus 15% to plus 18%. So going to give you a nice chunk of quicker cooldowns across the board. Also grants you plus 12 spirit as well. So it's a big pump on the old spirit stocks. And then these are the interesting ones in terms of some quick fixes overall. So it fixed the camera moving away from the player if you will respawn rather than following the ragdoll. So a camera bug related to the way it used to work with how the camera would hold on you. Something obviously you're only going to notice if you're buying the item, but I imagine could be a bit jarring. So they fixed that one. And then they fixed it being able to purchase globally during its brief respawn period. Now, of course, this means if you die, you had that window to shop, because when you're dead, you can shop anywhere, right? So this was giving you an opportunity to die, quick shop, come back with the new items if you were fast on the old fingers. So that is actually kind of funny that it gave you that option, but makes sense why they've now fixed that.
Yeah, it's so busted, so broken. I think now they've added all of these changes. I will say late game, you know what? I've gone from Soul Rebirth sucks whilst we were doing Dead Air podcast on the road to now Soul Birth is kind of broken,
kind of really strong, especially in particular instances. With other things you can synergize it with. That's what I'm saying. Like, this item is synergized with other stuff. If you want to just be annoying and be that split push, like backdoor, or just aggro kind of like, I'm going to go in dynamo even. Die mid-fight, come back out. Maybe you got a refresher in the back pocket. Boom, I vaulted you again, homies. Weren't ready for that one, were you? Like, there's a lot that this item could give you legs on.
Yeah, it's a crazy item, especially if it's just end game in terms of team fighting. Like, people just don't read into it. I think what it needs is reduction on the HP you respawn back with, and a visual indicator that someone's coming back.
So it does have that right now. I'm pretty sure it has. It's a very faint something. There's like a ghostly outline or something. But I know exactly what you're talking about, because we've seen it multiple times where people will just forget. Even if you tell them, look, on the HUD, it indicates they have Soul Rebirth, or if you say to your teammates, like your friends, like you've killed her in lane, but like she's going to come back. Sometimes people just forget. So like you say, I completely agree. Give it an announcer voice line or something that's really jarring to notice on top of the ragdoll for the body. Because I think the HUD indicator is good, but not everyone clocks onto it in the moment when they kill her, if you know what I mean. I say her, whoever it is that has the item. I'm just thinking about McGinnis. Always in my head rent-free. Yeah. But yeah, like 100%, I think that would make it easier to disdain, like, oh, okay, this player is actually going to come back to life. You know, even if you have like a little patron voice line.
Yeah, I think the 40%, dropping it down from 50% to 40% HP as well, probably would be a play as well, because by the time you get to that end game, someone's on 50% HP. If they're buying Soul Rebirth, likely they've got a lot of spirit life steal, so they can get back up to full HP really quickly. And it's sort of a problem for some characters. Now, I think that more testing needs to be done. That's a gut feeling from me. But the one thing that I am very certain on is giving it a much bigger visual indicator. Maybe an animated soul going back into the body, something like that. That's what I'd like to see. Shadow Weave Spirit Shield increase from 200 to 300, big increase, and spot radius reduced from 20 to 80 meters. So you can see them a bit easier now in Shadow Weave. I think Shadow Weave is going to be an item that's used way more often. I think a lot of the players up in the highest brackets of MMR buy into this item so often, as it's very hard to deal with and frustrating playing against a player who's able to get away with it. And Phantom Strike cast range, again, reduced from 30 to 25 meters. It was a little bit surprising and shocking seeing a Moen Krill fly at Mach 10 towards a 7 in the sky.
Moen Krill time.
Yeah.
He's in. There, that's how that would go. So yeah, fair enough. I mean, that's fine. Phantom Strike got its visual updates a couple updates back. Now you're balancing it a little bit more gameplay wise, and yeah, fair play. I mean, Phantom Strike right now is the best of the Blink items, at least for my money it was. So I think reducing that a little bit also makes some of the other potential options maybe a little bit more useful. You know what I mean? Yeah. I imagine it will kind of find its place rather than just being straight up by far the best kind of Blink teleport out of everything.
It's still good. I think they just wanted to manage the case of like Moen Krill teleporting directly upwards to characters in the air, which I like, because it's a case of you play in the air, the whole point is that they have to throw a knockdown on you or some kind of stun, and you try to outplay them that way. Shouldn't just be able to Phantom Strike on someone hit with a stun point blank. So I like that a lot. Onto the spirit items, which had quite a few changes actually. A lot of these initial ones are not that big, other than extra charge, cooldown reduction increase from 8 to 10%, which is big. What else? Extra spirit, minor increase to health. So I think we can skip over a lot of these 500 items because it's very minor changes and move on to Withering Whip.
Withering Whip, of course, that got the overall little tweaks that we saw today in terms of the skull being added. So you can see that now. So that's one thing to keep in mind if you're wondering what you're getting hit with and what's going on. In terms of the actual balance changes for it, though, it no longer grants you plus 20% ammunition. Plus 20% ammunition can be quite a lot.
It's a lot.
That's a chunky amount of ammo you were just carrying around off the back of Withering Whip, which isn't that expensive. So the fact that you're able to get that, probably pretty ridiculous. Instead, it goes the other way, now giving you plus 8% fire rate, so less ammunition by far, but you can shoot a whole lot quicker, which synergizes better probably with the way the item works compared to the extra ammo.
Yeah, because I think people were just buying this item less for the active and more for the 20% ammo count.
Yeah, I can see that.
So they reduced the fire rate slow from 40% to 30%. And the cooldown was the crazy thing, because the cooldown made sense at 40 seconds when it was a disarm. It was changed from a disarm to a fire rate reduction last patch, and now that cooldown's gone down from 40 to 25 seconds. So I think that this item's in a much better place now, which is nice to see.
Yeah, again, that's fine, right? Like, that's another one where you figured out a solution off the back of the previous change. You've had longer to kind of analyze how it's worked, and that works out. Quicksilver, the old Quicksilver reload, easily one of the best items in the game.
Yeah.
When you first start playing and you're like, ooh,
this is
I
cool.
can get an active reload. Oh, yeah. So cooldown reduced from... Oh, no, sorry, my bad. No longer has that plus 10% reload time. I mean, again, you look at that one, and I think with some of the changes we've seen to the other items that Quicksilver Reload synergizes with, I think that's fine at this point. There was a certain point where again you kind of had like a grotesque mishmash of items that you could combo with Quicksilver reload to never have to reload, or if you did, just be constantly shooting. You know, it felt like you had unlimited ammo. And one of the ways you circumvented that was with the longer reload time. Now, removing that, I think that's completely fair with how the items balanced around the other items you buy with it.
Yeah, exactly. You're so right, because it's a case of the plus 10% reload time made sense back when it had very, very low cooldown on it, like internal cooldown on the use of another ability to reset your ammo count. I think it's now 14 seconds. You'll have to fact check me on that one. But it doesn't need that anymore because the cooldown's so long. I think the plus 10% reload time is just kind of too much for what it does. So they nerfed it, but they didn't get rid of the thing that was intended to balance out how good it was. So it's a good change. Suppressor, health regen reduced from 3 to 25, and fire rate reduction reduced from 30% to 25%. Obviously, you're buying Withering Whip, which drops to 30%. So you don't want something you can just shoot someone and get the same value that Withering Whip does from just hitting a shot. So again, a lot of fire rate reductions brought down across the board. It is unfun to play against, so I'm glad that they're moving it down. If you want big fire rate reduction, you pick up Kelvin.
It's another thing as well, where I know, like, I think one of the biggest complaints for new players when they get into Dota is always that they hate the idea of being chain stun, chain silence, chain together where you're stun locked, right? And I think in some ways we had a bit of that in Deadlock, where in earlier patches we kind of had the same complaint. We were like, oh man, I hate how like I'm just silenced, or I'm just immobilized, or I'm just basically hit with the no fun allowed ability where you can't actually combat it. Whereas I prefer stat reductions or something that makes it harder to combat, but there is an outplay in there. I think those are perfectly fine. You know, like you say, rather than silence me, just reduce my attack speed. Rather than lock me in place, just slow me down or burn my stamina. Something like that. And I think we've seen a lot of those changes where Valve are giving you now the same outcome, but in an alternate manner that allows for outplay. And obviously, with a game that every patch, all we keep saying is, whoa, they're adding more skill expression. Whoa, they're adding more skill expression. Having these kind of items versus those kind of items will be a bigger change that I think will have good reverberations for retaining players throughout its life cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's so important to have things that are not crazy, but are used to outplay certain characters, and I think that leads us really easily into slowing Hex. Projectile speed increased by 30% and cooldown reduced from 27 seconds to 25 seconds, because slowing Hex, after its nerf where it no longer cancelled movement abilities after it was used, you had to hit it beforehand. I think increasing the projectile speed by 30% is very important, where if you're close to someone you can lock them down and assassinate them off the back of that. So for instance, Vindictors in the air, if you see them on the ground, if you can get a slowing Hex onto them, it'll travel to them quicker, and if they don't react by pressing flight early, then you've locked them down. So this is still a really strong item, still a really good item, but stops it from being useless versus some of the characters it was so good against. But now you just need to be hitting it early enough and at the right times.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's fine. Like, it's, again, one of those where, like you say, it just makes sense because it's a little bit more skill-based in terms of you can get it off quickly enough. It will hit if you time it right in terms of what they're up to. And again, it's still a far better item than it was in terms of being so annoying as the way it works back in the day, and it kind of made some heroes redundant. So I still don't mind that. I think that's all good. We can move on then. Rapid recharge. That's going to be charge count reduced from +3 to +2, and faster time between charges. This is now going to be increased from +40% to +55%. And the final change for that was cooldown for charged abilities increased from +20% to +25%.
Yeah, nice change. Overall, this means that it's still very useful in terms of an extended fight. You're still going to be getting that rapid recharge on your abilities, but you're also not going to have a Wraith sending 5 cards your way. You're not going to have a Talon be able to send 5 charged shots out in quick succession. So I think this is an important change just in terms of the longevity of the game, where they don't have to worry about adding characters that have charges on abilities. They're going to get ridiculous just because they can save all 5 of them up. So now going down to just 4 charges on most characters, that's a nice change. I like that one a lot. It definitely.
I think that's probably also prompted by like with Shiv coming in, with how he was the same. Like you think about his serrated blades in the sense of how like race cards work, right? He had so many base anyway that once you added on all the potential extra ones you could get,
Yeah.
you could just throw them like a madman, you know? And yeah, I think that's good. That's a positive change. It allows you to have more freedom when you're creating newer heroes as well.
Yeah.
You don't have to go, oh, we want to give him 4 charges, but if we do that, it's going to be incredibly broken.
Yeah, exactly. Same goes again for Lash. This is a direct nerf to Lash because you could chain together grapple with dashes in the air where you would never hit the ground. And you were almost impossible to lock down, especially good Lashes who were essentially flying towards the later parts of the game, or even just mid-game. Like, they would not touch the ground once. So I think this is a direct nerf to Lash, where he can't be in the air forever. He has to be a little bit more tactical with his uses of grapple. So knockdown next, delay reduced from 3 seconds to 2 seconds. Very nice. In terms of how expensive this item is, it was getting a little bit power crept on. The stun was reduced from 1.25 seconds to 0.9. So it's good for locking down a character. You can cast it for even further away from 35 meters to 45 meters. I think that the big one here is the delay reduced from 3 seconds to 2 seconds, because a lot of times you could just walk away from a knockdown. This time around, it's good for knocking down sevens who are in the air. It's good for knocking down characters in channels. For hazes, if you drop a knockdown on them, it's not a case where her ultimate Bulletstorm is going to do enough damage that by the time the knockdown goes off, it's already finished. So yeah, I really like all these changes.
No, I think it's nice. Again, like a lot of the stuff that's changed this patch is all fair. It's nothing too egregious. A lot of it's just bringing stuff more in line and keeping us in a better place overall. So I think Spirit, especially here, like a lot of this stuff goes back to the ideology of things that we've seen being changed as of late.
Last ones that I'm going to go over here, probably just... I think Silence Cliff, duration reduced from 3.5 to 3 seconds. Good again. No fun allowed ability reduced in damage. Surge of power.
Every time we've had a patch where Silence Glyph gets nerfed slightly, I think we've celebrated. We should celebrate Silence Glyph being nerfed.
It should be celebrated, 100%.
It should be celebrated.
Surge of power, imbued ability power increased from 28 to 34. So very nice for characters that love their singular big burst heavy attack. So for instance, Charge Shot on Talon. And I think we can go down into the 6.3 km. So Curse, duration reduced from 3.5 to 3.25. Curse was a nightmare to play against, but I think it being at 3.25 is very acceptable considering the cost investment you make. Also, a couple of patches ago, it got its plus 20% ammo, I think, removed. So it's specifically for shutting down a character. And I think that Curse is now at a spot where I would 100% agree that this is where it should be. So I'm very happy to see that.
Yeah, I like the stuff they've done here as well. Magic Carpet, obviously, it was a very cool item when it came in. It was based on community feedback as well. There was a whole thread. Apologies, I can't remember who it was on the forums, but it was a very nice write-up. Color-coded everything. I know how hard it is to use the formatting on the forums as well at times, and he made it look so pretty, and obviously got the item added to the game, and it was the suggestion to have the Magic Carpet. It was a very fun item added in. It's a shame that it doesn't get as much use as maybe some of the other items right now, because it is very kind of situational. I think a lot of people overlook it as well in certain instances, but they're trying to work on it a little bit and make it more usable, and you can see it here in the way they've given it a few buffs. One of them, top of the docket, now unslowable while on Magic Carpet. I think that's cool, because obviously it is either an engage or escape tool. It's your big, like, I'm going to jump on my Magic Carpet, I live the fantasy, dude. I'm going to go for like complete rotate across the map. So I like that. I think making it unslowable opens up a lot more opportunities, like I was saying, where, it's a different way of engaging some fights for like sevens, for Abrams, stuff like that. If you're doing something a bit cheeky, if it works with your build, maybe it works, man. Like, go for it. Big old goo ball sat on a carpet flying into the lane, turns into a ball, slaps your lips off, who knows. Cooldown also goes down by 10 seconds as well. So it's no longer 40 seconds. 40 seconds is pretty long. 30 seconds, half a minute, it's up every time. You could make the most of that. Like, that could be pretty useful. And the barrier on it now lasts for 16 seconds as well. So numerous buffs there, situationally on how it works, and also just rawly in terms of the cooldown and its usage.
Yeah, which is really good to see. And I think Magic Carpet, fun item. I really like the sound of it. I haven't used it that much, to be honest with you. So
That's the same. It's the same problem with me. Like I think it's really cool, but I just don't use it. You know.
yeah, so I think this might mean that I'll use it a little bit more. Echo Shard.
Well, I mean, here's the litmus test as well. Actually, how many magic carpets do you think you've seen since it was added in game?
None.
I think I've seen one, which for the amount of Deadlock we play, that's not a normal sign, is it?
No, I think for Magic Carpet, it was kind of the item made for 7, but then Ivy's ultimate became Magic Carpet for 7.
Yeah. Well, yeah, all right. I mean, we'll get on to that. There was some changes to do with that, so we'll speak about that later.
Yeah, escalating exposure, base spirit resist reduction increase from -12% to -15%. Damn, so that's a lot in terms of just immediately getting you into the fight and bringing down a lot of that resist. Boundless spirit now grants plus 25% weapon damage, so very nice for those characters that are a bit more hybrid. I think that's all the item changes. All done so. All cleared up.
There you go. All right, items back in the briefcase, back in the Curiosity Shop's storage room. Let's have a look at heroes. There was a few very interesting changes that were made inside of tonight's update. There was some balance changes. Overall, though, we got, I think, what is more one of our middle ground updates for a lot of the overall heroes that are currently in the roster. Some of it was really cool to read. And we get the classics as well in terms of micro adjustments to overall heroes kits that actually have a way better knock-on effect for the way the game's played. So strap in for this one. You're in the final stretch, guys. You're in the final stretch of tonight's patch.
Yes, you are. And this is... I like this one because this is the boys from Valve getting a little bit funny with it. Abrams' Infernal Resilience regeneration time increased from 16 to 18 seconds. And they always let us know, in brackets, this is a nerf. However, Abrams now does pull-ups on the zipline once again. And in brackets, this is a buff.
Which is hilarious. We need to mess around with that because I do love any of this flavor. I think we spoke about this last time where we were saying, you know how when Shiv came in, I was like, I really like the personality of character interactions and also individual characters having unique zipline animations, because there's a pool of them that have it. Like Pocket has a really nice one where it's like the frog from the briefcase. You've got Seven as well. No, not Seven, rather Shiv, where he's kind of doing it with his legs tucked over. I like all that stuff, dude.
Yeah.
I think that's super fun. So any kind of visual identity for those, I'll always take. So I guess they fixed something that restricted that from working and it's back. Do love that. But yeah, like you say, with the regeneration time as well, of course, that's because it regenerates the same amount but over a longer period of time. So you're not getting the it takes longer for it to have the same effect, which does mean technically it is a 2-second nerf rather than a buff to it.
Yeah. Just a couple of fixes for seismic impact and shoulder charge just not hitting the correct areas. So those are all fixed. Bebop's next. Gun range increased from 30 meters to 32 meters. This is a direct result of the Walker being max distance at 32 meters. Is nice for laning though. Hook now only targets enemies used by default. If you use with alt cast middle mouse, it will be ally only mode. So you can no longer have those moments.
Yeah, exactly. We were talking about this earlier. I was saying this is sick. It actually makes me want to play more Bebop, where I feel like it will be fun to, even if you have an overlapping hero, you're trying to make a sick hook.
Yeah.
If you hit the hook, it will still work. You're not going to be like, ruining your plays for your team or messing things up. You now have complete control over who you are pulling. Is it them or your own heroes? The other one is I have seen people complaining though. As it stands right now, I think it only works if your alt cast modifier key is set to default. If you've changed it, it doesn't work at the minute, is the feedback I've been seeing.
Yeah.
But obviously, there's going to be hot fixes, there's going to be patches. By the time you even hear this, maybe there's already been a hot fix and something's changed.
So who knows? We'll wait and see. Next one is Dynamo. A lot of more of these child abilities like Rejuvenate Aurora can be cancelled by using parry. It's the same from with Bebop. Hyper Beam can now be cancelled by parry. Kinetic pulse not traveling properly when near corners. Have seen that a few times. Gun damage reduced from 15 to 13. There was a lot of dynamos who were building into gun dynamo, and with a new item with Headhunter, if you haven't built Headhunter on dynamo yet, it goes insane. I think I played against a dynamo the other day who melted me in approximately 2 seconds because he was just hitting those headshots. Singularity cast time increased from 0.1 to 0.2, so again, more opportunities for reaction times for dynamo, and singularity range reduced from 9 meters to 8 meters. Singularity, difficult ability to balance. Honestly, it's one of the most influential abilities in the game, and I think they're doing their best of it, just in terms of how can we give them time to react to it, make it less egregious in terms of the range where it sucks you in from.
Yeah. Again, I think that's fine, dude. That's another one where like making changes to Dynamo so he is less egregious in terms of just like vast damage output and really being able to ruin you, and sort of singularity like ruining your entire life. I think that's fine because it did feel almost instant. I will say when singularity would come out, no time to react. Like there was no window of even being aware. Like the voice line wouldn't even start before it's sucked you in.
Yeah,
I like a bit more warning when
a little bit.
Like that's going to happen.
Would be nice.
Yeah. Great talent as well, mate. Here's another one that we always celebrate. Charge shot collision size reduced by 8%.
Yeah. I'm starting to think that the collision size is not the problem, but the speed at which it comes out. I'm not sure. I think they nerfed it enough here, and I mean,
they reduced it before anyway, though, in terms of the swiftness.
It still feels impossible to dodge, though. Even if I know it's coming and I dash out the way, it still hits me. So I'm still figuring this one out. I think, honestly, they've done enough at this point in time, reducing the base damage, and its tier 2 reduced from plus 70 to plus 65 damage. Puts him in better stead. He's no longer just blasting you out of lane a lot of times. You still have to play around that charge shot. But he has received a ton of nerfs. So we'll see where he is going forward, because he's extremely squishy. And like that's his big part of the kit, being able to poke people down from massive distance. And I like that about him. And I think he does fill that identity very well. He is just frustrating to play against. That's about all there is to it.
Yeah, that's fair. He is one of those heroes that's just kind of a pain in the backside at times. And charge shot was the biggest kind of butcher knife in his utensil for me back in the day, when that would just wallop you constantly. Whereas now I don't feel like I'm as frustrated by it. It feels a little bit more reasonable. It's the sheer quality of damage it would do. It would hit you and you'd instantly been in that state of like red screen and the drums going off, where you're like, oh man, I have just taken a hit. But at least now it's not as bad. You also can now use multiple air dashes when using Rain of Fire. So they're leaning more into him having a little bit more mobility alongside his actual kit as well, which is kind of nice. Again, this is why we were saying like Talon and Vindicta getting a lot more love to their playstyle, because they are obviously a bit different from the rest in terms of the norm, right? Like the ground isn't where they do their best work.
No, it really is not. So the fact that you can hit that Rain of Fire and be able to dash about and be able to get into a different position without having to cancel it, because he was kind of locked into the place.
Kicking your legs in air. It's like a dog doing like doggy paddle, just staying afloat.
It's very sad. So this is a nice one and does give him a little bit more maneuverability in at least a team fight. Immobilizing trap brute duration reduced from 2 seconds to 1.25. Not a bad change. And also mobilizing trap applies 50% movement slow for 1 second after the root. So a bit of a birth on that one. So both sides, and the tier 2 change from plus 1 second root to plus 2 seconds slow. So immobilizing trap no longer as annoying. No, but if you step in it, also, it's going to cause problems.
I like the fact that that's more of a consistent one as well now, where the actual time of the stun is always going to be the same.
Yeah.
It's not going to rapidly now get elongated, where you can't predict the timings as much. It gives you a little bit more of a consistent set. This feels similar to what they did with, do you remember when they changed Haze's Sleep Dagger to be more of sort of a ramp up and overall slow, rather than the immobilize itself being the main feature?
Yeah, exactly, which is absolutely what you need. And I think this it's more skill based again. So you get get that 50% movement slow where you can hit the shots, but they can still dodge, and they're not just sitting ducks for 3 seconds, by the way, on that immobilizing trap once you got his tier 2. Now you still have to hit those shots, and you get the first one for free, and then you got to line up the next couple. So I think for a immobilizing trap, it's a fun ability, it's a cool ability, and this adds a little bit more skill expression to Talons, and not as much I've hit you with my charge shot. Oh, now you're immobilized for 3 seconds. I am the most annoying character in the game. There's a bit more outplay around it, but it still taps into his overall identity. So I like that a lot. Haze is next up. Base bullet damage increased from 5.3 to 5.6. Not sure how much of a fan I am of that one. She already felt extremely strong. Sleep dagger impact damage happens immediately rather than after the brief drowsy period. So you can just snipe someone with that.
Yeah, you can use it. That was another fun way that I used to like using it as well, is if they are about to get away, but you know they're low and you just need that one hit, but the damage range is a bit awkward. As long as you could predict it with the sleep dagger and have the range for it, it was fun for that. So I'm glad that's back into how it used to be. And this kind of instantly goes into what we were talking about before with the way the stun period works. So sleep dagger drowsy period before sleep kicks in. So that timing before you fall to sleep when you're initially hit by it, that like overall stun in has been increased from 0.25 to 0.35. So a bit of a lengthier period there before you're instantly asleep.
Yeah, so again, 0.25 felt too little to be able to react to. You couldn't even get a dash off in that period, so you might be able to get a dash in now, just about, if you're quick enough. Sleep dagger cooldown reduced from 27 to 25, that's fine. And smoke bomb radius reduced from 20 meters to 18 meters, so got the similar treatment to Phantom Weave, so overall trying to reduce that spot time for stealths. Fixation tier 2 max stacks increased from plus 30 to plus 40. Damn, she is going to be hitting hard. And bullet dance now provides 2 weapon damage in the base ability, similar to the T1. Damn, she is.
Haze actually, dude, some of the loves playing Haze. It feels like you've just really given her a massive thumbs up of buffs on this one.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't seem like there's much really drawback. I don't know if I wouldn't say Haze felt weak, if you know what I mean. Like I the only thing is I can imagine like her clip in the laning phase always feels kind of small at the start, but I don't think the solution is to give her more damage for that, if that's where that comes from.
Yeah, I know.
Especially like late game, dude. She's farmed. Like you don't need no help, but fair enough. As someone that plays her regularly, I'm not going to be that upset about it. But if I was on the receiving end, I feel like this is quite a substantial set of buffs for her, and the actual changes to her kit aren't really that bad either. Like that's fine. The way you've changed Sleep Dagger, again, you give me back the bit about it that I enjoyed using, and then just tweak the overall timing. Which, if I'm going up against a Haze, I would prefer this variant of it.
Yeah, a little bit scary. We'll see how that plays out.
Let's cue the Vindicta Haze right now.
Yeah, I know. Infernus reduced vertical reach of Flame Dash DPS. It was a bit high. Flame Dash speed is now affected by slows, which is very nice. It did really feel like a get out of jail 3 card a lot of times. Even by the time you'd even try to get a stun on towards him, he was always halfway down the map. So I like that. Flame Dash trail gets wider with ability range bonus. Oh, I like that a lot. That's really cool. That'll actually be super useful in a team fight then, especially in closed areas like mid-boss.
Yeah, I like this, dude. I think you should, obviously we're talking about Haze not really needing much. I would love to see Infernus getting a little bit more flavor and a bit more love again. Like, I'm not sure what the stats are looking like for him if you've got the numbers on hand.
He's doing good.
Is he doing good right now? Is Infernus stocks are pumped? Because I think Infernus is one of those characters that is super marketable for the game and shows off a lot of like the very easy to get into. You know what I mean? Like first time you boot up Deadlock, if you play Infernus, you'd have a good understanding of like, oh cool, like my abilities make sense, I know what I'm doing. So him getting a bit of an old bufferoo ain't that bad.
Yeah, he is currently the 4th most played character in the game with a 82% pick rate, but he does only have a 49% win rate, which is surprising enough for me.
I think win rate, though, is probably skewed on all heroes right now.
Yeah, so the amount of games played, you can kind of see why he's at 49%. I think Warden is absolutely the outlier, just because he's at a 50% pick rate, but a 56% win rate. He's going crazy. So
Okay.
yeah, but
To be fair, even people I've spoken to that don't play much Deadlock, no Warden is like the G. They're like, yeah, dude, I pop his ult, I just win.
Yeah.
You know, like I've spoken to people that have played maybe like 10 hours, 50 hours, and they're just like, yeah, Warden's just sick, right? You can just 1v6. And it's like, yeah, no, you actually can, yeah.
He's one of the characters that synergizes the best with active items, and with active items being so strong in this game, he's really strong and just can transitions to late game so well, so it's difficult. Anyway, more about Infernus. Catalyst damage amplification reduced from 30% to 25%. Was pretty tough in lane, especially when you were hitting that one. And T3 damage amplification increased from plus 10% to 15%, so you get a bit of it back towards the end. And tier 2 reduced from plus 20% lifesteal to plus 15% because again, for Infernus, it was getting to a point where, especially with a duration increase and mystic vulnerability, he was impossible to kill. It's impossible to kill a good Infernus because they're constantly at full HP because of all the spirit lifesteal that's going on and just lifesteal in general.
So I think again, man, like that's fair enough. Reduces lifesteal a little bit, like his tick damage overall and sort of the bleed that he's looking to put on you is where a lot of that focus is. Lifesteal isn't really as necessary, and it does get frustrating with heroes like that when they just lifesteal, like out lifesteal your DPS. It becomes a bit of a pain. We can have a look then at the next one. Now, next one on the docket is interesting. So obviously there was a lot of community outrage, I think, in the sense that you could see people that were getting quite frustrated where they liked the new ult that Ivy was given, but they didn't like how every game just had Bug Zapper 7, where he would get dragged around and absolutely ruin you. And obviously didn't need Majestic Leap, didn't need to invest in some other items because you'd always have that pickup of him just being dragged in. And the timings on it were wild. Like the cast time, everything was pretty damn snappy. The damage was max. And the one change Valve made last time in the smaller minor updates to try and combat it was that they made it so it would silence you when you were being airdrop carried through the air. But people didn't really like that, didn't fix the issue because you just do it beforehand and then still be an ult. And obviously it doesn't really change the timing, especially if you've got duration extender. So this is what they've done this time around. In terms of airdrop overall, it no longer silences allies anymore. So it's not going to be silencing you. You can cast whilst in air as you could previously.
Yeah.
But the kicker is that you'll now deal 50% less damage when you're being carried. So they haven't removed the gameplay mechanic. It's still fun. People like it. It's still there. You can still do it. But only half the damage output.
Yeah, so again, it's something that you can kind of deal with, get away from, and potentially get a knockdown or something of the like on towards the Ivy or the 7, just stop it from happening. But it will give you more time because you won't be taking all that damage coming through. So again, that interaction between Ivy and other characters is so fun and such a cool ultimate to bring into the game. But it did get a little bit problematic. So just a lot of bug fixes there. Airdrop self-cast time increased from 1 second to 2 seconds. This is particularly just to fix a lot of the split pushing that was going on from Ivy because it was getting problematic. So if you're trying to get away, it's going to take 2 seconds to pick yourself up.
I've seen most Ivy mains saying they hate this one, by the way. They really feel like the 2 seconds feels jarring. But again, I feel like long term, it's not that bad of a nerf. Like it could have been a far more drastic nerf. But I think that's just another one where like you've got players that have got so used to it over the week that now obviously you're trying to adjust, right? And sort of make sense of how it feels.
It was such a I get out of jail free card that I think it's okay going up to going to 2 seconds. 1.5 seconds might be easier and better, but you just have this case of you shouldn't just be able to immediately get out of any bad situation. Airdrop is for silencing enemies, getting that minus 20% bullet resist on people so you can melt them afterwards. It's an aggressive ability. It is not a reposition ability. It can be used that way, but you need to preempt it in the sense that you take the walker, you know you're coming, so then you drop the 2 second self-cast time and you get out there. You can't just use it instantaneously as soon as you see your opponents. Again, a lot more stuff where it's like you're gonna have to predict what's going on. You can't react. So I kind of like that one.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Again, like it's okay to sort of reduce it now and not make it as strong because it was pretty egregious in terms of what you could do with it for the 7. But I'm glad they haven't broken the interaction and removed that, because that would have been kind of a lame way to fix it. But this is very much like a Valve kind of, all right, let's keep it in, it's fun. Let's think about how to keep the fun and change how it works. All right, so that's mostly what changes there, apart from a few smaller things in terms of like a damage growth baboon, Watcher's Covenant also having a slight reduction onto it, and then finally just fixing some smaller things where you would get stuck in terms of the clipping on IV as well, and the bridges and in buildings, so obviously you just sort of fly into them and get stuck going in a straight line. So they've tried to spruce that up a little bit. You can also now pitch up and down, which is really cool. So IV's movement when in airdrop has been made nicer overall. So Ivy fans probably still pretty happy, but you do just have to get used to the changes on that. Let's have a look at Kelvin then.
So bullet radius increased from 5 to 6, not a massive one. More health per boon. Arctic Beam max slow increased from 60% to 80%. Absolutely crushing. So, I mean, that's going to be difficult to play against. Arctic Beam now affects soul orbs, secures, and denies them. Really cool change. So you can use Arctic Beam in lane. And the tier 3 range reduced from 15 meters to 30 meters. So if he catches up to you, you are going to be hella slowed. It is frustrating playing against Kelvins these days. Also, we fixed the Ice Path jitter. If you experienced that one, it was just a case of where if you were on the Ice Path, your screen would shake madly. Which was very unfortunate. So overall, just Arctic Beam getting a little bit of a buff here and a nerf. So if you do get caught by Arctic Beam, which is going to be painful, it's going to slow you down. And Kelvin has this great supportive power to just be a chaser for the team.
I think that's nice. It's a good change. Obviously, Kelvin, like the Ice Path is a big bit of his kit. If you have a weird bug like that that's clearly jarring and obviously not supposed to be like that, fixing it is always great. Kelvin, again, like he's had loads of these little polish updates in terms of like his grenades, the way certain things work, all becoming more responsive, more one-to-one. And it's nice because you do see a lot more Ice Paths now recently, like with how that's changed recently in the past in terms of the cooldown, the overall active duration of it as well. You're seeing them used more rather than just Kelvin popping it selfishly just for him for one short instance. It feels like there's a little bit more love of it being used again, similarly to airdrop, where it could be a rotation pathway, it could be a supportive pathway to get you in or out.
Yeah, so Kelvin, very cool, nice changes. On to Lash, improved firing arm position to be a little bit more out of the way from the reticle, very nice. And Grapple no longer gives stamina charge on use. Again, this is what played into Lash being able to be in the air basically infinitely, was that additional stamina charge, which you could cycle between the grapple and the dashes. Paradox, fixed paradoxical swap going through even if Paradox dies during it. So it's no longer a case where if you get swapped, she dies, you're not still going to be in their team. It's going to stop abruptly. And then to Pocket, some very minor changes again. Barrier Jump reduced from 8% to 7% per stack, and fixed the Barrier Jump visual not showing properly, which I did notice. I didn't see it all that often. So that's nice and should give you a clearer understanding of when you should back out on a trade or take that trade.
Yeah, which is always good. I think we're getting a lot of that now with Valve polishing up some of the more visual identifiers. We saw it this patch as well with things like, maybe we didn't mention it previously, but basically if you destroy the set tower guardians that are going to be defending base, that will now give you access to the express lane. That's indicated with an actual tag below the zipline that says express. Whereas before, I'm sure some people didn't know. They were just like, why's the zipline boosted? It's just faster now. But whenever you destroy, obviously, the set coordinating guardians in base, that line will get buffed with increased speed. So that's why that happens, and that's the deal with it, and it shows you that now. So any of those little things Valve are starting to make easier to learn for newer players that are coming on.
Yeah, sorry. Carry on. Apologies.
No, you're all right, mate. What was the other?
Oh, it's just 7. Stormcloud now provides plus 20% bullet resistance in the base ability. I didn't notice this the first time I read through, and I was wondering why 7's early ulting, I could not blast through them, because usually I'm used to just hitting them after they get their first point into Stormcloud, just shooting them down if they ever get into a fight with me. But that plus 20% bullet resist now makes a lot of sense why they're so tanky, even from the start of the game when they just get their Stormclouds. That's nice. Also, time to reach maximum radius reduced from 6 to 3 seconds. So this can be more of a reactive ability. You get it up in the air. Again, people are getting more wise to the fact that 7 ults, get around a corner and get somewhere out of line of sight. So this gives him more opportunity to hit that one and have immediate impact on a team fight.
Yeah, just having a quick look through what else has changed there. That's fair, actually. I think that is kind of better thinking about it now then, because obviously it was pretty squishy. And a lot of the times I think you would see newer 7s that would just save their ults so much that it would never get much play for them because they were too nervous about using it early and just getting battered because of it. So yeah, anything that gives you a little bit more longevity and more opportunities to use this ult, I think is good. So charge radius increase as well. That's going to be going up on static charge from 5 meters to 6 meters. That's been played with quite a lot over the past couple months where we've had it changed in terms of the timing, the length, when it's going to be cast. And I think even the range was played with previously. But the radius on it being up by 1 meter could be beneficial to chain those stuns together, get some more use out of that. Yeah. And the tier 2 has had its radius buffed even further from +7 meters to +8.
It's too big. It consists of a whole lane with Mystic Reach. I think it's kind of egregious. So I think that the static charge is somewhat problematic at the moment. Maybe I'm just reading into it too much, but right now, just off of initial thoughts, I think it does get a little bit too large. So maybe that's something we see brought back a little bit. Maybe the tier 2 radius gets changed. Who knows? Shiv comes up next, who is consistently receiving nerfs. Bullet damage growth per boon reduced from 0.5 to 0.4. Gun fall off range reduced by 10% as well. And his health growth per boon reduced from 41 to 35. So he has received a lot of nerfs as we've gone through. He's probably one of the most broken characters on release that we've had so far.
Yeah, I mean, he came out swinging.
Yeah.
Like, you played Shiv, and that first game of playing Shiv, I think for most people, you would be like, wow, I want to be a Shiv main, you know?
Pretty much.
Like, he was so fun and so egregiously strong that he was just sick. Like, he just felt unkillable. Of course, he got that first round of balance changes pretty quickly. I think it was like the night after. But yeah, Shiv came out swinging. I mean, he was so strong. This wasn't related, but like on launch, servers were crashing with games with Shiv in. So he was doing something to the game, if you know what I mean. But yeah, reducing him massively here. Again, I think we always say, like, it's better that a hero comes out and they're stupidly strong than they are too weak, because then you can do stuff like this where you can bring it down. And now we'll probably see more of a period of buffing him over the next sort of balance period with minor patches. Because, yeah, maybe this is a bit too far the other way. But hey, he was really, really broken at first.
Yeah, massively so. It's Slice and Dice tier 2 reduced from 100 to 85, and the Slice and Dice tier 3 now considers creeps for only half value. It used to be a case where you Slice and Dice, after you get that third upgrade on it, it reduces its cooldown for every hero hit, but it would also reduce it for creeps at the same value. So you could hit through an entire wave of creep, the cooldown would be completely reset, and you can hit another one. So he was very broken when it came to jungling and all the rest. Now it's a little bit more in line, which is nice to see. Bloodletting deferred damage reduced from 35 to 30%, so again making it a bit more squishy, and the targeting UI for Shiv's killing blow is now more clear about when the target will be killed. I think it now has like a little red symbol in there showing that will finish off a player. So for Shiv, overall, I like these changes. He still feels strong, but less to the point where he could just mow down an entire team.
Yeah. I think that's fine. I think that's fine. Again, like, you know, we came out swinging. He was way too strong. Now you balance him out a little bit. He's still very fun to play, and I think he's particularly one of the cooler heroes that we've had over the period of Deadlock so far. One of those #1 heroes. So yeah, I really like Shiv, man. I think like it's still cool to just even have him as a playable character, compared to when you were kind of like playing the remnants of what was left. Still just missed the fact they took his rocket boots away. I did like his rocket boots.
Man, the
boots.
Heelys were good.
Yeah.
Vindicta next. Again, she received a lot of buffs in terms of items. So they have slightly nerfed her in terms of stake duration, reduced from 2.25 seconds to 2 seconds. As I was saying before, you could reliably just put 1 point into Tether and then just forget about it until the end of the game. Crow Familiar Spirit Power duration scaling reduced from 0.05 to 0.04. Not a huge deal for the gun dictors out there, but for anyone playing Spirit, this is going to hurt you a tiny bit, where you can't just wait for the crow to tick someone down into assassinate range. And then very minor bug change where fix left click sometimes deselecting the ability when charges aren't ready. For, I believe that's assassinate or crow. But I think it's one or the other. I haven't really noticed it, to be honest with you. It's such a minor change.
Yeah, it just cleans up the quality of life a little bit. So there you go. Obviously, again, like, it makes sense with the changes for Vindicta. You buffed her in other ways, a lot of it being situationally with the item synergy that she's got there in terms of her optimization. But you reduce the period of stake. I don't mind that, mate. It's not the end of the world, but it is another one of those abilities that can be annoying when you're on the receiving end of it. So making it a little bit less lengthy by the 0.25 seconds there, that's all right. Now, this is a big one. This one has some of the larger changes. Viscous once again gets focus on him. Obviously, he was dropped. He had a huge round of balance patch changes. Then it's been a little bit quieter, small tweaks. This is the biggest set of changes we've had for a while now, about 2 weeks on Viscous. We'll get off with his primary fire firstly. So his primary fire has been redesigned to make it more usable and have improved damage and scaling. You can kind of muck around with it, but it does feel a bit more responsive. It's a bit quicker in terms of the shots, a bit more of a blap, 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 rather than a blap, blap, blap. Yep. It's also had its reload time change, so it's more in line with other heroes now. It's not as egregious. Overall, his gun just feels more responsive and better. But the big kicker, big ticket item, is he now joins the short list of what? You know, he's one of a handful of heroes that has an alternate fire. Yamato, Shiv. He now also gets his own alt fire added to the game, which is cool. I think anyone that gets an alt fire, that's an instant tick in the "this is dope" book from me. So I think more alt fires, even being retroactively added to some of the other heroes that it would synergize with, would be dope. His one is very in-brand for the character as well. It can't crit, so it can't headshot, but it can do an AoE. So it's basically a big ball of goop that burns a bit more ammunition. I think it's 3 to 4 ammo. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it uses more ammo. I know you can shoot 4 of them in total per clip, I believe, for his gun. But it goes out, big splash, damage AoE. Yeah. So what we were saying, it synergizes really well with some of the more AoE-based items.
Yeah, it was unreal. It's super cool. I've been enjoying using it in lane just to like harass people around corners and stuff like that. And it actually does a surprising amount of damage early on. Like 80 per hit was crazy for me. They've increased the damage on splatter and have moved damage away from puddle punch. Puddle punch was becoming one of those things where people were just spamming it so quickly, one after another. So they have fixed that slightly by creating a delay before the next punch from 0.25 seconds to 0.35, which is noticeable. But they've increased splatter spirit scaling from 1.4 to 1.5, and splatter damage on second and third hit increased from 66%, 33% to 70% and 50%. So splatter is your main damage tool, and a lot of the puddle punch stuff has been reduced downwards, so kind of nice. It's good to see.
Yeah, I'll take that, dude. Again, like that's fine. I think the balance changes we've had here for Viscous have made it more fun to play in terms of his uniqueness, but more balanced, not in terms of being, you know, ridiculously overpowered in categories that probably weren't the intention when Valve initially brought him out. Gooball also got a couple of changes to it as well. Spirit scaling has gone up by 1.05 to 1.3, so quite a large increase there in the overall spirit scaling for it. And Gooball's acceleration has been increased, alongside the base turn radius and radius after bouncing being increased as well, meaning it's a bit more controllable. Like, you're not ricocheting as hard and then struggling to course correct. You can now actually accelerate faster better and control the movements a lot better, which I saw some people sort of, still not quite getting the grasp of the ball movement. It does take time to learn how to use the ball, but now it
really
more
does.
responsive.
It really does. Next one up is Warden then. So we've gone over Viscous quite a bit there, just in terms of some of the quality of life changes, moving a lot of his spirit damage off onto Splatter, as well as Goo Ball, increasing the melee damage of Puddle Punch. Kind of cool stuff.
Also, that last one they tweaked, I have experienced that before as well, where you constantly have an arrow above your head. That's been fixed. Sometimes like the arrow that would indicate where you're going, and a green line would follow you around forever. That's been fixed in this patch. So thanks for that one, Valve.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. Warden-based movement reduced from 6.5 to 6, and fire rate scaling with spirit reduced from 0.35 fire rate per spirit to 0.3. So he was shooting very fast late game with just some spirit items, and Warden was breaking the sound barrier in terms of his speed. So I'm glad they brought the base movement speed down. I saw someone yesterday even almost outrun a Talon Owl on Warden. I was like, what is going on here?
Okay.
Yeah, it was very cool. I was dead and just watching him hit Fleetfoot and just like ascend it down lane.
Usain Warden in the server, world's fastest sprinter.
It was awesome. It was so good. So again, a couple of nice changes for Warden. I think those will help in terms of how strong he is. It's very obvious that he's incredibly strong just looking at track lock at the moment. Yamato. Power slash max damage time requirement reduced from 1.5 to 1.4. Minor buff. A little bit of a nerf though. Power slash collision radius reduced from 8%. And Crimson slash radius increased from 12 meters to 30 meters. So you'll be able to hit that 3 a little bit more often from range.
All right, yeah, so a couple changes to Yamato. Again, I think some of these are a bit more reasonable in terms of the interactions that you change towards the bottom, especially. You're just kind of polishing up the way it interacts against other heroes, especially.
Yeah, I think it's very nice. I do like Yamato. Again, the big ones are fix some cases where Flying Strike would get in a stuck state, which happens quite often. So now that'll be working more consistently, and fix some cases where Crimson Slash would appear to be cast when it wasn't. And that's been a bug that's plagued Yamato for so long. So after a Flying Strike, you would hit a Crimson Slash. It would go through on your screen, but you would have to then press the button again. It was pretty jarring to play with. And that is the final note in the patch notes.
There you go.
Got to the end. Again, this is going to be another long video, dude.
This is a classic Dead Air podcast. This is like, it's like 2 hours 40 version. It's one of those ones, but for that one dude who's driving to work, he's probably loving this.
He'd be like, I'll have this for tomorrow.
I'll have this for today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
Work and back. But yeah, there you go. That's all the patch notes. That's everything. The deep dive Dead Air special that changed in the August 30th or August 29th, if you live in America, patch for Deadlock.
It's a big one. It's a really big one.
It is. But, it is a big one.
We've had fun, and I think that a couple of weeks back we were like, there's no way a patch can be any bigger than this, yet it was. Once again, we tried to give as many thoughts as possible on every single change. Obviously, if you're watching this one, you are usually in for the long haul anyway. So again, if you made it this far, thank you so much. Remember, today we're going to do 4 stars in the comments if you want to be part of the super secret club.
Okay, so if you listen this far, that's 4 stars, 4 emoji stars in the comments. And if you're listening on Spotify, of course, I don't think you can comment on Spotify. If you can, try it out. Leave a comment on Spotify if you're listening, or if you're at the gym and you're mid-set, then you don't have to stop. Finish the set, it's fine. If you're not listening on Spotify, that's okay. But if you were listening on Spotify, then that segment I just spoke about would apply to you. So maybe listen back on Spotify just so you feel like you've experienced both bits of the podcast, either side.
Yeah, the double.
Exactly, double up. Maybe they're not the same version. Maybe one's different for each. You don't know. You haven't listened. So listen again. You might as well.
Oh, we've got like a cheeky change in there.
Yeah, maybe. Links in the description, of course, to all of those. There's a lot of new links in the description actually as well. And there's newer things coming soon. We're available on all social media platforms. That's right, all social media platforms, as at Deadlock Air. So the same name on everything. Subreddit is now Dead Air as well. Discord is going to be available very soon. If that's in the description, clickety-clack it, join the old Discord. Like and subscribe as well, of course, and turn the little bell on. Everyone says turn the bell on. I'd see you get
doing
notifications.
That one too?
Yeah, so we'll do that. Turn that little bell on so you know what's happening, because then they can actually come back for more of the videos, man. Because we're uploading a lot of stuff right now. There's shorts, there's the regular content, all the stuff we were doing pre-announcement. Now there's new stuff we're working on. It's all been doing really well. We appreciate kind of like all the feedback we've been getting on stuff, all the positive views as well. It's been kind of mad, dude. Like the channel just keeps going. I think we had 1K on the last podcast. Now we're at 5K. 4.5.
It's kind of crazy. It's insane. So again, we really do appreciate you all, and thank you so much for listening/watching this podcast. And until next time, we'll catch you out there in the cursed apple.
Yeah, right. See you later, everyone. Bye-bye. No, I'm doing a wave. Bye-bye. You can't, if you're listening on Spotify, you can't see. Maybe you can hear the whooshing. Bye-bye.